לא עוזר לכם, צהל שוב מכה בכם. זה יום הדין, זה יום הדין, אללה לא עוזר לכם, צהל שוב מכה בכם. כשעסקנו בתפילה, חציתם את התעלה, כשעליתם שוב בהר, לא חשבתם על מחר. זה יום הדין, זה יום הדין, אללה לא עוזר לכם, צהל שוב מכה בכם. זה יום הדין, זה יום הדין, אללה לא עוזר לכם, צהל שוב מכה בכם. אין מנוס ואין מפלט, אין לכם פשוט ברירה, אין תקווה ואין מקלט, אין כבר דרך חזרה. זה יום הדין, זה יום הדין, אללה לא עוזר לכם, צהל שוב מכה בכם. זה יום הדין, זה יום הדין, אללה לא עוזר לכם, צהל שוב מכה בכם. ברמה ובמדבר, באמצע יום הכיפורים, באתם בתרועת שופר, אך יצאתם בשברים. זה יום הדין, זה יום הדין, אללה לא עוזר לכם, צהל שוב מכה בכם. זה יום הדין, זה יום הדין, אללה לא עוזר לכם, צהל שוב מכה בכם. זה יום הדין, זה יום הדין, אללה לא עוזר לכם, צהל שוב מכה בכם.
Were you surprised to see Syrian tanks so close to your unit?
Well, no, that was a surprise because they surprised us because we were not ready for the fight, but because it was a holiday for us. Otherwise, we wouldn't make a surprise like they did today.
Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на ордів образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
Байрактар. Байрактар.
Байрактар.
Байрактар.
Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Русский военный корабль. Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 643 of the news. And it's good to see you all once again. And it looks like tonight is a much better start than Sunday.
And
Let's go.
It looks like, thankfully, whatever was kneecapping us on Sunday is apparently over now because everyone's here, and I'm very happy to see it. And, of course, we're going to be covering the past 48 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine and the very big news that the Russian general of the entire 14th Army Corps has died today on the front lines of Ukraine after stepping on a landmine. You heard that right.
Got smacked.
Man, my man literally stepped in it. He literally stepped onto it, and then he was, well, you know, he's now the hamburger meat for the afternoon grill. But nevertheless, we are going to be getting into this news really quickly. However, I do have to give you a quick little note that we will not be covering any news from this area of the world tonight, not just because YouTube is, you know, vehement about it, and we're going to cover it regardless whether they hate us covering it or not. But due to the ongoing ceasefire in Israel, there isn't really any news to cover. All of the clips that y'all are seeing at the moment of any kind of combat or activity that was occurring in the area that may have been uploaded over the past few hours is actually older footage that is finally being released. And so we're not going to be covering any news here, considering there's nothing actually developing at the moment inside of Israel. However, many of y'all probably did see the footage from the Iranian drone that was circling the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower and its strike group as it was moving into the Persian Gulf, but that wasn't really newsworthy for us to make an entire segment about, so we just decided not to cover that and to just get straight into raw Ukraine war news entirely tonight. But I guarantee y'all that when the ceasefire ends, because it will end, and if hostilities continue, we will make sure to carry on our normal coverage of the Middle Eastern news segment like we have been for nearly the past month and a half. But moving on into the big news inside of Ukraine, this is it right here. Somewhere in the area of Donetsk is the Russian 14th Armored Corps. And according to the information that we have on today of this year, Major General Vladimir Vasilyevich has died, and it's, according to the information, he was blown up by some kind of a landmine at 2:30 p.m. in the afternoon, and it's a little bit of a serious event, just because it's a general. There's really no better way for me to explain it. The guy is high up enough on the chain of command for the Russians that his death actually shows up as a blip on the radar for Putin himself when he gets killed, so this is a very serious ordeal. We don't know if the organization of the 14th Army Corps is going to be seriously affected by his death, or if the leadership of the 14th Army Corps is going to get even worse. But at the moment, we are able to confirm that general is dead. That's
you know what's a real shame is that real big loss of intellect that we had with that one. With that guy gone, the world is in foul shape when it comes to thinking about stuff and, just like philosophy and all that good stuff. He was such a smart guy.
He was an incredibly smart guy. I mean, you would have to be very smart to be able to step somehow onto a landmine that ends up killing you. Like, I don't even know really how to describe it. I don't know if he stepped on a landmine, he got blown up, and then he died later, or if he just died instantly, because usually anti-personnel landmines will blow up, wound you severely, and most of the time, you actually end up surviving. Other times, there are instances where people do not survive stepping over an anti-personnel mine, but I'm very hard-pressed of thinking of a normal scenario where that would happen. It would have to be an incredibly large anti-personnel mine or something else that took this general out. Nevertheless, he is dead, and it's going to be a huge shakeup in the 14th Army Corps' composition, their leadership, and also probably even their effectiveness in the field. But, we'll have to wait and see what the actual impact and effects of this Russian general dying are on the 14th Army Corps, but I have a feeling that it probably will be quite severe. But we'll just wait and see, just to make sure. Right now, it's a hunch. But moving on from that little bit of news, and really quickly on into Russia, it appears that publicly noted losses in the Ukraine war are beginning to really climb to a point that it's almost unavoidable to even try and ignore it at this point. In some places in Russia, they have heroes' walls, which are soldiers who have died in Ukraine, and they have their picture put up in their local town. On the by and large, the Russians can try and deny their casualties as best as they can and not account for any official numbers, at least publicly, which is something that we've seen them do for a while to make sure that they can skirt around actually telling people how many losses the Russian army has taken. But on a local level, that's next to impossible to really do. A lot of these people were known by folks in the city, and so when the news comes that they are dead, there's really no way to hide it at that kind of a local level, and so it becomes publicly seeable how many Russians have been lost in a single local area because of the war. And in the area of Veliki Novgorod, which is just about 50 miles south of St. Petersburg, we saw that on a heroes wall, they are running out of room because so many people from Veliki Novgorod have died in this war that this entire massive wall of this warehouse is almost filled up with pictures of the dead.
Предприниматель Андрей Федоров на стене склада своего учреждения сделал такую аллею памяти погибших новгородцев на СВО. Считать пока не буду. Вот племянник нашего одного из подполковников с длинными волосами, Владислав Пивнюк, недавно год был гибели. Вот такие вот. Я когда подошел, говорю, хоть бы сильно хватило этой. Места мало осталось.
And when you see that down here, this is the part that we didn't really get to see up until now. You can see right down here, there's only about space for 2 more pictures on the bottom if you remove that pallet off the wall. About 3 more on the next row, maybe another 4. So there's a room on this wall for another 7 people to die in this war just from Veliki Novgorod. And then they will not be able to put up pictures for the quote-unquote heroes of the nation beyond that point. And that kind of gives you an idea of how many people have been lost just in this one city.
Хоть бы хватило стены. парни. Ваша смерть не зря. Вы настоящие герои.
And that's the end of the clip. While I hear Matthew quietly typing away over there, the mic got a little.
Man, it can't be quietly if you're hearing it, man. That means it's loud.
Man, it must be, because I was sitting there and like at the end of the clip and I was just hearing and I was like, damn, he's going. But still, Veliki Novgorod, and we can see a very interesting image developing here. They have almost no room to account for the dead, and I believe the caption actually said, sadly it doesn't say, I would love to count them, but nevertheless, I don't want to just bore y'all to death with watching me try and count. I'm not even good at math, so I probably get the numbers wrong. Nevertheless, do find it very interesting to see. And also, let me do this really quickly, because let's try and figure out Veliki Novgorod population. The city of Veliki Novgorod has a population of 224,286. It's very similar in size to the city of Montgomery, Alabama, just to, put it in context for anyone who's here in the southeast. But, of course, unlike Montgomery, Alabama, I will have to say that on maybe one plus side for the Russians, it probably doesn't sound like Basra down there. It probably just sounds like, a sword fight or something, because Russian citizens don't get to own guns. But nevertheless, I will have to say that many citizens being lost in a city that big, especially compared to other wars, most likely, like the Chechen wars and the wars in Afghanistan, or the war in Afghanistan, it's a shockingly high number, and once again indicating to us that Russian losses are truly incredibly high. There's really no way to hide that at this point. We're starting to see that even in smaller villages as well, and I have a feeling that we'll probably be seeing that as the war keeps going, that wall will overflow with the amount of dead just from that one city. We're now going to be moving on from that and down into the area of Sevastopol, because Sevastopol has had something very interesting happen to it recently. We have heard that apparently the storm that hit Crimea was so severe, it's being called the storm of the century. It's a once in a 100-year occurrence, the storm we just saw hit Crimea on the Sunday fundraiser night, and it seems as though the Russians may have been completely wiped out on the shorelines of Crimea because of this. I'll be showing y'all this a little bit here. Of course, we'll be muting it, but these were some compiled clips from the shorelines of Crimea just showing how bad the storm was really getting.
Jeez, man, that's like a... Wow, that is really ferocious right there.
Dude,
is that a hotel?
I think so. And we can see that it wiped out railways almost entirely. And we can see that they're trying to fix the railway as the waves keep crashing in, knocking houses almost off of their foundations. In fact, houses collapsing in Sochi.
That looks like one of those Japanese houses that collapsed during the tsunami that came in. That's weird.
Yeah, it kind of does. That's actually a very interesting observation, Matthew. Very interesting one.
It's made real cheap, Bliat. Use some brick next time.
What did we use building these walls? Corn on the cob and broken dreams.
The Russians apparently haven't seen the three little piggies in the brick house. They just got to the wooden house part.
But as y'all can see, this storm was devastating to the entirety of the Black Sea. This is a stop sign. This is actually a Russian-Ukrainian equivalent of a stop sign right there. Now we can see that even this area is being engulfed by surge waters. We don't know where this is specifically, but it is on the coast of the Black Sea. Dang! That's just a tsunami.
That's pretty serious right there. And the Russians really didn't need this because they're already losing bad enough. They're getting screwed over by the Ukrainians, and now Mother Nature's coming in for that final little kick in the teeth.
The damn U.S. government, they're sitting there and targeting the Russians with their damn weather relays. But anyways, moving on from just the tinfoil hat crap, this is something else that I found really interesting. And this is something that will have a massive impact, especially in the next few weeks, most likely, because a satellite picture came out after the storm subsided from the Maxar satellite showing the entrance to the port of Sevastopol. Many of y'all who have frequently watched this channel will know that we've covered the continuous building up of the defenses, the nets, really everything that the Russians have set up to the breakwaters of Sevastopol, trying to stop Ukrainian drones from being able to enter so easily and attack the Russian Navy at anchor. We have seen that the Maxar satellite pictures have shown us a before and after of the harbor defenses before the storm and after the storm. We can see all of them here, and of course I'm not going to cover all of them because we've covered that a lot before, but watch as they move on to today. That's what it looks like today. They're gone. The coastal defenses for Sevastopol have been wiped away from the storm, practically to the foundations of what you could call it. I mean, hell, it looks like even most of the caissons that they dropped in the water, or more so the concrete barges, whatever you want to call them, even those got swept away further into the harbor or somewhere else because they are gone as well. And this is big news. Very big news, because with these coastal defenses gone, and not only that, it looks like even the breakwaters have been destroyed as well in the storm, or have been heavily damaged. Because when you see this one down here, it almost looks like it's non-existent. This may give Ukrainian drones a window of opportunity over the next few weeks while the Russians try and rebuild these defenses to strike the Russian Navy where they are. And we know where the Russian Navy is, because the entire Black Sea Fleet was recalled to port to Sevastopol because of this storm, this typhoon that came through the entirety of the Black Sea. It was so bad, none of the ships of the Russian Navy, except for possibly the Kilo-class submarines, were allowed outside of the port during the storm. And so right now, at the moment, they are all still inside of the port of Sevastopol, and that means that the Ukrainians have just a few weeks to try and send in as many drone attacks as they can, and to try and destroy as many of the ships of the Russian Black Sea Fleet as they possibly can. Now, there is a small exception to this. Some of the Russian Black Sea Fleet actually was recalled to Novorossiysk. From what we understand, these were some of the smaller frigates, but from what we know, one of the few missile cruisers left in the Black Sea Fleet actually was recalled to Sevastopol. So some of the higher-end and more expensive ships of the Russian Black Sea Fleet are in Sevastopol. Some of the smaller ones are in Novorossiysk. But that only means that the potential of hitting a very important ship within Sevastopol has only increased, because there are less targets available for the Ukrainians to attack, meaning that these larger capital ships are really the only thing there that could be the victim of a Ukrainian attack. And hopefully we will see one soon. And speaking of a Ukrainian attack happening soon, we actually did see one occur as a massive fire was burning somewhere near the opening of the harbor just 4 hours ago. We don't know what it is at the moment. We haven't got any additional details and information, but this could be a variety of things. Could be ammunition cook-off. Could be anything.
I think it could be maybe an electrical station or something, since the hurricane just came through.
It could possibly be. It could be like an electrical substation or something like that. But still, very interesting to see what is happening in Sevastopol 4 hours ago. But once again, I hate to tell y'all, we don't really have any actual information on what that is. All we know is that there's something burning in Sevastopol right now, but we don't know if it's civilian infrastructure, military infrastructure, if it's a ship, if it's an ammunition storage. We have no idea. But moving on now to Sevastopol and all of the news going on from there, we also saw that this little typhoon was affecting other Russians in places like the Kinburn Spit and the islands around the area. I'm going to show y'all this clip because it's kind of funny, and also it's very enlightening on what's happening in this area. Here it is. This is our hut, living like homeless people, very nice. Or rather, what's left of it.
Hey, look, that guy's sitting over there in the corner, all happy and stuff, but there's a flood outside.
Dude, this guy's probably got trench foot. He's like, hey, hello. We got effing flooded, and we can see him showing off the floodwaters literally right at the edge of their little tent. All sleeping spaces are underwater.
Was that a joint in his hand? Or was that a cigarette?
Wait a minute. Wait a minute, what the hell is that?
What was that?
What is this? This is either the jankest cigarette ever made, or my man is going to Romania. One or the other. I don't know what's going on here, but, I mean, this man saw a typhoon coming and he said 420 blaze it, you know what I mean?
Somebody in the chat is going to be able to know what that is. We're not experts in the category, but I'm sure we have experts here, probably unintentional ones, but let us know.
Let's see. Some people are saying that is, in fact, a blunt. And so we'll go with it's a blunt for now to make this a little bit more interesting.
ребята кое-как
Somehow guys managed to
лежат,
lay there.
но, в принципе, там вон, наверное, кизамыс или что-то там. И мне похуй на птички,
I don't give a
потому
shit
что-
about drones because... And then he just takes a long pause.
Потому что похуй.
Because I don't. Oh, wait.
Wait a minute. He did the fear to set in right in that moment. He's thinking, wait a minute, I really do care about drones. Because I don't.
Dude, no, you know what happened here, man? He said, I don't give a shit about drones because... And then he went... Because I don't. That's what he did.
I'm seeing folks saying it's a cigarello. I've never heard of that, but I guess if that's what it is, that's what it is.
Вообще снег был.
Yesterday, it was snowing.
Вот тут все, что смогли мы спасти.
Oh, dude, they're covered in gunk. Ew. It's going to take forever to clean. Oh, my
Вон
lord.
нахуй. Вон, вот.
There it is, the shore.
Да, там.
Beachfront property.
I was about to say that, Jinx. Something about to be like beachfront property.
Вон. Охуительно, да?
Effing awesome. I'd agree. I mean, hell, in America, that would cost like $500,000. Oh, F, where are you sending the guys for real?
Насмех.
To assure death? And that's the end of the clip, but there we have it. Two dudes hanging out on the Dnipro Islands, or more so, you know, just really the islands in the area, and having a very fun time of it. I wish them trench foot and terrible night sleeps. Moving on from that and out of that area, we're now going to be moving into our location unknowns. Because today, I have to lie. I cannot lie. I can't lie. The location unknown clips were absolutely insane. Like, each one of them was. They were very interesting, very close calls, good stuff. But moving on to our first one, we got to see a drone going around and blowing up various Russian ammo caches. First, we can see this one, which is composed of many different wooden crates that would fetch hundreds of dollars here in the collector's market in the United States. But you see them hit one, and it starts venting smoke like some kind of a smoke machine. But let me tell you, this is no smoke show. This thing's about to get
That's
real
pretty cool.
quick.
That's like a fireworks box. It started off with the smoke, and now it's got the little sparkler. Oh, look at that! A little extra. Hit it.
Boom. Oh!
Oh, yes.
Dude, that went up like gasoline. You gotta tell you, that's pretty wild. And look at that, it's just cooking. Oh, and we can see them going for another one. And we can see them hitting again. And oh,
Look, an owl clutching a huge grenade. That thing is like twice the body weight of that owl.
dude, does it lift though? Does it lift?
Yeah.
Man, this thing.
This is
lifting.
Arnold.
Man, this thing be going. Dana Ruzivka 30th Brigada. Wow. But anyways, moving on from that clip and on into our next one. We also got to see the Russians got a close call with the Ukrainians here. You see, these are some Ukrainians in the video, and what's about to happen is a drone's about to come down right on top of them nearly and explode. And somehow, out of pure luck, nobody got injured from this. But here's the clip. Damn. And all it did was startle the Ukrainians, which is very lucky for them, because it could have been an even worse story than that. But wonderful to see that it was only a close call and nobody was injured. Really wild clip right there. Moving on from that and into our next one, we also got to see probably some of the coolest pictures I have ever seen from a mechanic shop of the Ukrainian army as they're getting a T-72 refitted for service. This is apparently from the 53rd Mechanized Brigade, somewhere in the Donetsk Oblast. We just threw this in the location unknowns because we didn't know exactly where, but we could see them using what I would assume is either a welder or a angle grinder or something that's throwing up sparks on this here T-72, it appears. Really sick looking, though. And we can see it from... Yeah, it's an angle grinder.
That's an angle grinder, yeah.
That's an angler grinder. But we can see him, him at work again. In the next picture, we can also see him with, maybe a welder. And we can also see here they are working on the tank systems. I love to see it. In the next picture, we got to see them working on a... what the hell is this? A milling
Isn't
machine?
that a lathe?
I believe it's a lathe, I suppose, but I'm not a, industrial worker, so I don't really know for sure. I know a lot about war, but I don't know a lot about the industry. Moving on from that, we can also see them trying to move what appears to be some kind of a rangefinder system for the gunner into the turret. We can also see a little cool side picture here showing the Z that is on this captured Russian tank that they are now turning into one of their own. And we have to admit, very nice. Moving on from that and into the next picture. Oh, it is a V12.
Oh, man. That's lovely. Throw that in a car. Could I swap that out with my engine?
So he's not coming on then. Dude, imagine Top Gear doing something with this. That would be cool. And then in the last picture here, we can see that they put up the explicit parental advisory or parental advisory explicit content kind of picture here in black and white as they are working on a road wheel of this T-72. Really cool pictures, though, from start to finish, of the 53rd Brigade refitting one of these captured Russian tanks for service. It's really neat to know that the Russians use a lot of equipment that is almost completely identical to what the Ukrainians are using, so that way the Ukrainians can end up refitting the stuff and just using it right against the Russians once it's captured. Meaning that every single Russian tank that's abandoned in mostly running condition out on the front lines is potential for the Ukrainians to put another tank into their armed services without having to spend really any money at all. Only thing they have to spend is time and finding the additional spare parts in the tank graveyards that surround Ukraine. But moving on from that little bit of location unknown news, it's time for us to get on into our last bit of location unknown news, which is also pretty exquisite, I must admit. Ooh!
Oh, Zero Bobcats. What the hell happened?
I gotta tell you, man, I don't know what happened, but you know what really did happen today?
Some pretty decent losses. Not the huge losses like we saw the other day, but looking pretty good.
Well, I would say they are very good losses in the infantry department, but the losses in every other category, man, I mean, they're non-existent nearly. I mean, only 3 armored personnel carriers, 3 supply trucks, 3 tanks, and 1 artillery piece to add to the 860 Russian troops that have been killed. Now I will say this. We know that the Russians haven't run out of everything literally over just yesterday, where the armored losses have just dropped to nothing. We're probably seeing this due to the typhoon maybe stopping a lot of combat actions, where a lot of these losses were occurring. You know, of course, the storms mostly will even damper combat, so that may be the reason why, but we can see that the Russians were adamant. Although the storm was going, they had to lose another several hundred, or at least a battalion tactical group worth of their forces today, and it appears that they did. And so, very nice to see. We'll probably see that these losses begin to climb again over the next few days, now that the storm is over, but still, because of the storm, it appears that the losses were slightly low. We're now going to be, well, slightly low in every category but the infantry. The infantry was still up there, but every other category a little bit below average. Moving on from that little bit of news, it's now time for us to move on into that sweet, sweet area of the Northeastern Front. Many of y'all have heard about this. Many of y'all know about it. It's an area that isn't really spoken about much, or really even talked about in most places. Most places on YouTube, most places on the news. There is always an ongoing battle in this area. It's a smoldering one, though. It isn't a very heavy one like at Avdiivka. But we always see that there is a tiny little fractional move of Ukrainian or Russian lines, or there is a decent loss of Russian personnel in this area because of the actions that are happening here. Now, before we move into this, though, I have to say that we have seen that the live chat has been going so fast tonight. And I'm glad to see that so many of y'all are here with us tonight as well. There are 5.1 thousand of y'all in here right now. And there's about 80 chats coming in a minute, which means that y'all are sending in a message at a speed of about more than 1 per second. We love to see y'all talk in the live chat because there's a lot of interesting things that y'all add. Y'all help us to discern cigars from cigarellos and blunts from Romania. Y'all also help us to do other things, like figure out what the hell is a lathe and what does an angle grinder look like. Y'all help us out with a lot of things. And not only that, y'all also have a lot of interesting input on what's going on in the war and y'all's opinion, and also some of the leading topics of the day, like the general that was killed in the 14th Army Corps and what that may mean for the Russian army in that area. I mean, I'd highly encourage y'all, and I'm saying all this because I highly encourage y'all, whether y'all talk often in the live chat or not, to get in that live chat and get involved. There's a lot of cool people in there. I've gotten to know a lot of y'all over the past 2 years, and we would love to see more people join in and be able to talk in the live chat and get to share their knowledge and experiences and get to know new friends here in our live chat. The Lee Spring Army is the finest community on YouTube by far, and I know that y'all would have a great time in our live chat because so many of y'all already do. But before we move on into that Kupiansk front, I'm not just gassing y'all up. I'm saying all this because y'all have been throwing in some very interesting comments and takes on everything we've already seen so far tonight. Matthew, what have you been seeing in the live chat?
I've been seeing the same thing you've been seeing, some really good points. And also, I've been seeing people answering the polls. And I've also been seeing people say that the polls are still not popping up for them. And I have to say, I am sorry, because I try to put it in the live chat because YouTube is still glitching where it doesn't show the question, but it shows the answers. So, sadly, still nothing we can do about it except for try to get YouTube to fix it. Hopefully they will. But anyways, moving into our first question here, it says, do you think the Russian general was killed by a Russian landmine or a Ukrainian landmine? It looks like 44% said it was a Russian landmine, 20% said unsure, 19% said a Ukrainian one, and 17% said, it likely wasn't a landmine. And on this one, I would not be shocked personally if it was a Russian one, because that seems to be the Russian MO at this point. They end up getting their own versus the Ukrainians getting them. It could be either one, but seriously speaking though, but I have a hunch, just a estimated or best guess, that it was probably a Russian landmine. Because I don't think the Russian general is going to be walking up toward the front line where the Ukrainians actually are. If they did that, I'd be shocked. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say, I think the guy probably did die from a Russian landmine. It would be pretty shocking if he died from a Ukrainian one, considering that they're obviously not sending a general over into an area where a Ukrainian mine would be. He's probably behind the line somewhere on the Russian side. So it's probably that a Russian was incompetent, ended up guiding the guy into a known minefield or an unknown minefield because they're so incompetent they didn't account for its existence, and then he ended up getting blown up by one. That's probably what happened if I had to make a guess. But at the moment, we're not really hearing a lot of information rather than the guy died from a landmine. We haven't heard whose landmine it was, where he was, or anything for that matter, rather than he's just dead. But, you know, that's news I'm happy to hear, even if it's just that little. It doesn't matter about the details. It matters that the guy is dead. And hopefully his death will have a massive implication for the Russian forces that were in that 14th Army Corps and how they're going to be conducting themselves in the field. And so with that, I hope that does address that quite well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, we've got one more poll to address, and the question on this one says, do you think the Russian losses are starting to get low due to weather or other factors? 71% said it's due to the weather, 15% said it's due to other factors, 8% said I need more info, and 6% said unsure. And on this one, I'm pretty confident it is the weather. Now that the winter is setting in and snow and all these other factors that come with it, it's turning very nasty in Ukraine, and it's very tough to fight in those conditions. And that probably explains why the losses are suddenly low today. But even with that being said, I wouldn't be shocked if they went back up slightly, but it's not going to be like, you know, during the summer or anything like that. But Enforcer, what say you?
I have a feeling that the losses at the moment were low because of the storm. Because we've seen that before the storm, the losses were staying incredibly high. It looked like the Ukrainians were doing incredibly well, holding the Russians back. And then all of a sudden, most of the losses, except for the infantry, dropped down to almost nothing. And I have a feeling that probably is because of the prevailing weather conditions. Because there really is no other way to explain it. The Ukrainians aren't getting pushed back anywhere to the point that they wouldn't be able to inflict losses on the Russians. So that's not the case. And we're also seeing that Russian forces are largely in bad shape because of that storm. A lot of the coastal defenses were destroyed. The harbor defenses to Sevastapol were wiped out. We even saw in the area of the Kimburn Spit a lot of Russian soldiers may possibly be drowning or in the possibility of being flooded. So based off of all of that, I have a feeling that it's most likely just because of the storm. And we'll see over the next few days whose answer in the poll is right or not, because we have about 4 more days, well, actually 5 more days in this streaming week where we're going to be looking at the loss report day by day. So if we see that the losses continue to stay that low, it may not be because of the storm. If they climb again, it was probably because of the storm why they were low right now. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, because it's an interesting topic to discuss why the Russians are having such low losses. And Matthew, not only did we have people discussing things, we also had people asking questions. And so, what were the questions we had, Matthew?
All right, and we also had people super chatting as well, and that's what we're going to jump into first are the super chat questions, and the first one we have is from channel legend, absolute legend, Mark the Recidivistic Astronomer. He throws in a $100 donation, and thank you very much, Mark, as always, for that very generous support. He says, changing currency again, just to confuse you. And let's see what currency he put that in. He put it in 100 New Zealand. New Zealand dollar, is it, I think?
New Zealand dollars.
Ah, it's not a krona. That's Sweden, I think.
Krona is a Swedish thing. I believe it's also Norwegian. And then, there's other currencies around the world like rupees, which are from India, and then you got shekels, which are from Israel. And then you got, pounds, which are from Britain. I got to tell you, Matthew, when you become rich in Britain, apparently you just become fat because you get a lot of pounds. And then also in Europe,
that can be taken so wrong.
In Europe, you get euros, which are a good food. I have to admit, I really like them with tzatziki sauce, but it's kind of weird to me too, because I was just thinking the other day, if you get $1 million, you get like hard cash, y'all following me? And then you go to Europe and you get €1 million. I don't even know how in the world you put those things away. And also, how do you stop them from spoiling over like a few days?
Get the hell out of here.
I'm just saying.
Man, these dad jokes are piling on.
I'm just saying, y'all. I mean, maybe, Matthew, that's why the British keep on gaining pounds, is because they keep on having so much to do with all of the other Europeans that they keep on getting euros, and therefore they gain the pounds.
That's deep.
That's deep.
I guess.
But I think we're getting down to the bottom of European economics. Nevertheless, I do thank you so much for the massive amount of support, Mark. Of course, not from Europe. That currency is New Zealand dollars. And I got to thank you so much for being our Canadian-American New Zealander in the Lee Spring Army. And not only that, I got to thank you for the massive amount of support as well. The support is incredibly important. And while we always encourage y'all day and night to support the fundraiser, support to this channel is incredibly important because it's the only way we're able to do this as a job. And I got to thank you so much for putting in that massive amount of support tonight, Mark, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to be on air and keep this channel running. And so thank you so much for supporting this channel. And thank you for wanting to confuse us a little bit as to where you are, because we never know. Are you in Canada, America, or New Zealand? It could be any of the three. But still, thank you so much once again, and thank you for helping this channel to keep on running and being a legend here in the Lee Spring Army, and I believe an old guard as well. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Plant Lady, who puts in a $20 donation, and thank you, Plant Lady, very much as well for that support. And she says, this is to support the channel and keep up the good work and take a question from the chat. And also, thank you very much, Plant Lady, for that. And also, a quick reminder to everyone, if you have a live chat question for us, you don't have to put in a super chat. I am extremely low. I only have 5 live chats thus far tonight. So if you have one, tag @EnforcerMatt in the live chat and send it in so that way I can add it, because we're going to run out quick.
And with that, I want to thank you so much for the support, Plant Lady, and helping this channel to keep on running. And I thank you for appreciating the channel enough to find it worthwhile to support. Of course, we only run on support from viewers like you. And if it wasn't for folks like you, Plant Lady, who decided that our channel was worthwhile to support, we wouldn't be able to exist. We don't run ads, we don't have sponsors, which is very different than most other YouTube channels because, really every other YouTube channel, they hop on the gravy train when it comes to money. They go and get sponsors, they take super chats, and they run ads. They are triple dipping the chip. And we all know that double dipping the chip is unacceptable. And so triple dipping is just heresy. So we only single dip the chip. We only get viewer support and we cut everything off. Not only that, it's distasteful in my opinion to have Chevy run an ad on a stream where we're watching people, get blown up in a war. Because while we'll joke about it, I still don't think it's something that is advertiser friendly, like even to me, and I think that's very distasteful to do something like that. So I gotta thank you so much, Plant Lady, for helping this channel and our vision on this channel to stay alive as we continue to cover the news, and I thank you for appreciating enough that you found it worthwhile at all to support. And so thank you so much once again. And Matthew, what else was said in that super chat?
So what else was said in that super chat is keep up the good work and take a question from the chat.
And we will make sure to take a question from the chat. And so what do we got, Matthew?
All right, and the question from the chat is going to go to Sweet, who says, do you have any information about the very high radiation readings around Melitopol?
I haven't heard about that specifically. So I'd have to declare ignorance on that at the moment. I haven't heard about those markedly high radiation counts. We haven't heard about any markedly high radiation counts around Nikopol, which I think is a very important indicator if that question is possibly suggesting that there's something that's happened in Enerhodar. While the currents, well, the wind currents may be blowing that south and east towards Melitopol, at the same time, Nikopol is so close to Enerhodar that there would be some trace amounts of radiation if something had happened. And not only that, Enerhodar is visible from Nikopol because Nikopol is actually on a high elevation where you can look directly over the reservoir straight to the power plant. So we would also be able to tell that there's a visual indicator that something had gone wrong there. So at the moment, sadly, I'd have to declare ignorance on that. But nevertheless, I do thank you, Plant Lady, for the support in helping us to sponsor that question, because at the moment, we sadly don't have an answer. But with that, we are on to the final question of this segment, and then we're going to be moving on into the rest of the Ukraine war news.
All right, and this one is going to go to none other than BC Skyman, who throws in a $20 donation. And obviously, as we all know, BC Skyman is a channel legend, a huge channel legend, and he sadly does not leave a comment for us to address, but thank you very much, BC, as always, for that support, and we do appreciate it very much. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I got to thank you so much for the support, BC Skyman. Did not throw in a comment, but did throw in the support to help the channel to keep on churning and burning. And if it wasn't for folks like you, BC Skyman, who has been here since day 4 and has always been watching this channel outside the hunting trips, but the hunting trips are cool sounding. You have always been here and always watching this channel and always being a huge supporter of Ukraine and this channel's mission to continue covering that war as well. I got to thank you a great deal for being here with us tonight and, of course, helping this channel to keep on running again, because it is a entirely Spring Army approach in supporting this channel. And and this is something that I always think is very interesting. We have been criticized by channels that run super chats, sponsorships, and ads for making a living covering this news, and we don't run sponsors, and we don't have ads, and we only take super chats. They take 3 different kinds of support. We only take 1. And for some reason, we get criticized for that. And I've got to thank y'all all, regardless of the criticism and the ne'er-do-wells out there who say that kind of stuff, for continuously helping us to keep this thing going and just really letting us just completely blow these people aside. Because it means a lot to us that people have always been behind us and have known that we have been sincere in what we're doing. We've been as transparent as we possibly can with everything we do, including how viewer support is received, which y'all can all see live here, how our fundraisers go, which you can physically see every single Sunday. It's incredible to know that every single one of y'all believe in this channel greatly, and we thank you all so much once again, like you, BC Skyman, for being here with us every single step of the way and helping us to keep this thing running. And so thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And in honor of your super chat, BC Skyman, we are going to get right back into the news and covering the area in the northeast, specifically around the Kupiansk front. Over the past 48 hours, it doesn't appear that there's been any notable frontline changes in this area that are significant of note. It appears that there were some very minor corrections to the front line near the area of Orlyanka, but beyond that, it doesn't really seem that anything major frontline change was happening. We can see, however, that near the village of Vilshana, Tavolzhanka, and also Drovchina, that a Russian armored column was completely decimated by Ukrainian ATGMs. We can see what appears to be a BTR of a sort, or a BMP, firing off its main autocannon over here on the left side of the column. We can also see another APC and a third one over here to the right. We can see this APC maneuvering. It appears that the rear side is facing towards the bottom of the screen. We now see the drone zooming out, showing us this armored column literally in the middle of a field, probably the worst spot it could be in. And then we can see that the one onto the far right get hit by an ATGM, knocking it out immediately. We now see some Russian soldiers running for the tree line, which is about a half kilometer away, so they'll have a quick time getting there. And I like the little emoji, salute, fist. Oh! The second one has been destroyed. I think there's a javelin taking him out because that thing came down from above, pretty much. And with that, that's the end of the clip. But absolutely wonderful to see that the Ukrainians were able to wipe out almost a majority of a Russian armored column trying to push forward in this area. Moving on into Sinkivka. which kind of sounds like Sin City in the Ukrainian form. You know, it's like, this is the pit of all hell, Matthew. Sin City, Detroit. And meanwhile, in Ukraine, it's, this is the pit of hell of moral despotism, Sinkivka. That's it. But anyways, we got to see the 95th Brigade firing at some Russian forces near the area. Oh, and we got the beats.
Oh.
Beats by Dr.
It's going to be a nice sick beat, too. If we weren't worried about copyright, I'd love to hear it, but you never know.
I think I'm good.
Oh, damn, it's deep fried, too.
Oh, dang, they got the real orc. And not only the orc, it's got the pork. But we can see the tank.
Man, looks like what do you call those images that are like horrific? Like you're not supposed to see them. Cursed images.
Yeah, you know what this looks like to me, Matthew? This looks like one of those pictures that would have been on those memes. Like, yeah, I know y'all can't accept it, but this is what peak performance looks like. It looks like one of those pictures.
Yeah, it kind of does.
But we can see the tank rolling around down there in the mud, wallowing in it. We can now see the tank firing onto the Russian position at point-blank range. And we see it hitting it again. And we see them just firing shot after shot into these Russian positions. And we can see that white cross on the back of that Ukrainian tank, indicating that we are correct. We identified the tank correctly. It is, in fact, a Ukrainian one. We can even see the commanders up here enjoying the view. I gotta tell y'all something. A real quick tip for everyone. Don't drink milk and coffee together at the same time. I don't know what it is, but it's like the milk cancels out the caffeine in the coffee. Because I did that before the stream, and I feel like I'm about to pass out, and I think it's because of that.
You said you don't drink milk and coffee together?
Yeah, like, don't put cream in your coffee or anything. You just drink it
Man,
straight.
I was about to say, everybody puts creamer in their coffee, man. Like, I put creamer in every time I make coffee.
Man, I think that's a conspiracy by Big Coffee to negate the effects of caffeine and make you drink or buy even more coffee. I'm telling you, it's some kind of a conspiracy. That's it. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding with you all, everyone. Calm down.
Just trying to screw us over. But, oh, man.
That's why we need to legalize weed. But anyways, we can see the tank continuing to fire. Oh, it's about to run over a stump, and we can see it just hammering this position over and over and over. I feel like most of the Russians in this trench have probably been taken out by overpressure of the shells exploding nearby alone.
Now, isn't this about where the Russian general would have had to have been to get blown up by the mine?
I don't know. I have no idea, because this is all the way up in the northeast, but if you're talking about just like being close to the front lines, yes, this would kind of be the place. And we can see the finger of God come out of the sky going, hit right here. He's like, hit right here. Oh, man.
He's pointing, saying, see, the Russian general walked right up here, and then he got hit by the mine.
Dude, I love how this commander's just sitting out of the cupola the whole time that he's just riding around in this. Oh, never mind. No, that's the machine gun. That's the NSV. Sorry, everyone. And we now see the tank rolling away after blasting away the Russians. And I gotta say, wonderful to see. We're now going to be moving on from that little bit of news in the area of Kupiansk or Drovchina. And we're now going to be moving on into the area of Kuzimivka, where we got to hear some creepy morning music. This is what the Russians do to try and demoralize the Ukrainians. And I'm not going to talk through it because it's very faint. And so, Matthew, don't say anything because I'm going to have to turn up the audio really loud here. But y'all will be able to hear the faint echo of the music in the background. And I'll tell you when you can talk again, Matthew, when I turn it down. Because if you talk now, right now, beyond this point, you're going to blow everyone's eardrums out.
Так нас будет пидасы, блядь.
Oh, creepy. And so I'm going to turn that back down. So, Matthew, you can talk again now. But what
Did you hear what I said during the middle of it?
Yeah, you went, oh, creepy. But, you know, I actually found the song I actually know the song because before I started covering the war in Ukraine 2 years ago, I'm actually a big person into foreign music of really every country in the world, and especially patriotic songs and military songs of every single country around the world. So I can usually identify for y'all on the spot patriotic music or military music from practically any country around the world. And that song right there is one that has been incredibly popular since the dawn of really modern Russia. And what it's called is it's like let me see, how in the hell, Beret Rossiya, which means something like forward Russia. And let me see if it's copyrighted, because I'll play y'all a little clip of it. So it's not copyrighted. It looks like YouTube is no longer respecting the Russian copyright. But we're going to play just a smidging of it, so that way y'all can actually hear what the song sounded like without the distortion, because it was traveling over like 2 miles of front line. But here's the song. It's pretty cheesy.
Oh my god, is that an electric guitar in the background?
Yeah.
Ah.
And the auto-tune. So this is the part that started in the video, right here. But that's the song. Like, it goes on for 3 minutes. It's a 3-minute long song. But that song, you would not believe, is like one of the most popular patriotic songs inside of Russia. It is played at like everything. It's the equivalent in Russia to God Bless the USA song here in America. You know, the one that I'm talking about, Matthew? I hope to live to give their lives. You know that one?
Oh, yes.
It's the equivalent of that song in Russia. It's just played everywhere. But
although I think a lot of people like that song you just mentioned, the American song. So you're probably gonna get roasted for that.
I mean, listen, y'all. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. A lot of the modern patriotic music just doesn't vibe with me. Like, I'm into older patriotic songs. I'll list a couple off for y'all, like Columbia, the Gem of the Ocean, God Bless America, things like that. I really like those when they're played well and they're not like modernized, and, you know, it's a solo. Solos suck for patriotic music. It ought to be like a choir or something. But you know, that's my opinion on like patriotic music for a country. It's got to be classy. You know, you can't try and commercialize it, because it's not really supposed to be commercialized. But anyways, still interesting to see the Russians trying to demoralize the Ukrainians with a crappy Russian patriotic song, because I only think that annoys them more, to the point that they'll probably kill the Russians a little quicker. But moving on from that, we're now moving on down into the Crimea area, where we got to see something very interesting. Some Brazilian members of the Foreign Legion were fighting inside the Crimea forest today, and we got 2 separate clips from them at 2 different points of the day's fighting, showing us what was going on. Here's the first clip in an ongoing firefight as the 12th Azov Special Forces Brigade and the International Legion hold off a Russian push through the forest, specifically from the Spetsnaz. What type of rifle does my man have here? What's going on? Oh, he's got a foul! Oh, dude, look at that! Wow!
What's so special about that?
It's a foul! It's
It's a foul.
Yeah, let me show you a picture, Matthew, because I don't think it's ringing a bell, but oh man, I can't believe it, Matthew. You'll know it when I show it to you, because, you know, we're planning on reviewing one in the future, you know, like when hint hint, nudge nudge, you know. It's this one, you know, wink wink, nudge nudge.
Oh, that one.
That
okay,
one.
Yeah.
He's got it. Dude, I love these. They are so good. But see him laying down the heat. We see that this cameraman actually has an AK-74.
You say Baba Yaga?
Baba Yaga. That's it. But I gotta tell y'all something. You know, I'm gonna have to rabbit hole over here real quick about this guy's rifle, because we haven't seen them much in Ukraine. They are there, but they're not as common as, say, the AK or the M4. It's a little bit more of a niche rifle, much like it is in the collector's world here in the United States as well. They're highly coveted, though, and really the reason why they're not common in the collector's world here in the States, while I turn on my fan because I just realized that it's getting hot in here, while they're not common in the States is because they're kind of hard to get your hands on. Here's a good picture of one right here. The FNFAL. Some of y'all may know this as an SA-58 or an L1A1 if you're from Britain or the Commonwealth. But this is one of the best rifles that I believe was out there during the Cold War. It's chambered in .308 or in the NATO designation 7.62 by 51. They are amazing. And I just saw, let's see, Knievel Hotmail say, I have an FN FAL if you want to buy it. Well, good news. We have one, and we've been trying to get to reviewing it for a while. We will review it. It is my favorite battle rifle, period. It is amazing. And this thing is truly incredible. They are accurate like pinpoint lasers. I cannot tell y'all how accurate these things are. At 100 yards, you can get a grouping of like an inch and a half or less, just without even a lot of skill. It's just amazing of a rifle, and it's just crazy to see them being used in Ukraine. This thing on top of that, if you're using armor-piercing rounds, .308 can punch through practically everything except for level 4 plates, which are the highest level of armor protection one can really get. Of course, I think they're slightly higher than level 4, but it's almost never out there and never really exists. But these things are truly incredible. And I have to tell y'all, if I had to equip an entire armed force with a rifle, and we're not considering the volume of ammo that a soldier can carry around, it would be this gun. It's just the best there is. But moving on from that little bit of news there, and on into our next bit, we also got to see some more footage from these Brazilians a little bit later on in the battle. And also, I saw Jay Casey say SA-58 Shorty is my favorite. I don't like the Shorties. I just don't like the way they look. Like, I bet you they're lighter for sure, because they're taking a few inches off the barrel. But to me, I love that full-length barrel on the FAL. It also gives it that just a little extra bit of feet per second on the round, and I think that's all worth it. And also, it's just a beautiful look. But anyways, here's the continued clip of the Brazilians in the international league.
Não. Cadê o pino aqui? Vai na frente do lobo lá e atira na janela. Não.
We see him whipping out the AT.
Naquela janela? É na janela de cima lá, tem buraco. Atira lá. Onde é que tá o lobo? Aqui na frente.
We see him moving forward.
Sai de trás!
We now see him fire at the Russians, and the fire went quiet. It looks like he may have gotten some. Massive credit to the hugely underplayed Brazilian members of the International Legion who rarely get any press attention from anybody, but nevertheless, a lot of Brazilians have stepped forward to join the International Legion and fight for what's right. And you got to give them a lot of credit. They're from thousands of miles away, just like the American volunteers, and fighting in a war that they could have easily decided not to. But they stepped up for what's right, and we could see them out there pushing the Spetsnaz itself back in the Crimea forest in these two clips. Meanwhile, we got another clip showing a Ukrainian tank firing at Russian positions in the Crimea forest as well. Sadly, I'm going to have to mute the video, but we can see the Ukrainian tank reversing back towards this Ukrainian trench, firing off its machine gun and main gun at the Russians, and we can also see some snowfall around, showing us that this video is from very recently, maybe within the past 48 hours. That's the end of the clip right there, but very interesting to see that the Crimea forest has been somewhat active, at least in the video footage category, for about 48 hours or so. We can also see that there's been no frontline movements here either, and I have a feeling that this is very telling that they are not making any progress at all, and the Brazilians in the International Legion are doing an incredibly good job at holding back the Russian onslaught from the Spetsnaz. Moving on from that and into the next area of the line near Berestove and Vyimka, we got to see the International Legion down here as well, taking a little picture. They're blurred out, but they both have either CZ Brens or they have scars. I have a feeling these are CZ Brens, though. But very nice, very nice. We're now going to be moving on to the next part of the front line in the northeastern area, near Datne. What do we got to see? That sadly, one of the Leopard 1s has already been knocked out on film. But on the bright side, the crew was able to bail out to safety, which is very important because crew survivability is one of the most highly sought-after assets in a tank, especially when you compare it to a T-72, which turns into a Roman candle or a turret tosser every single time it gets hit. Usually the crew very rarely survives a hit to a T-72. A lot of Western main battle tanks can survive the hit, or at least survive long enough for the crew to survive. Here's the clip. We can see our Leopard 1A5 here rolling down this tree line, and the first thing that we note that was most likely a mistake that led to the loss of this tank was the complete lack of any kind of Ukrainian forces that we can visibly see nearby. It wasn't joined by any additional armor. There may have not been any recon in the area as well, and so this tank may have been probing the area, which is very dangerous. And also, I can see that a lot of people kind of started giving hot takes in the chat about the FAL. Why, y'all? Why? Some people
It doesn't
love
look
it.
like it's that popular with some people. So I see some people saying it's just a wall piece and not really a functional gun.
I don't even know why y'all are saying that. Why? Why? It's an amazing rifle. It's incredible. It truly is. I got to tell y'all something. A lot of the battle rifles out there, and a lot of the whatever you want to call them, I know this is about to get heated, assault rifles or service rifles, whatever the hell you want to call the AKs, the M16s, the M4s and stuff, all of them are very popular for a good reason. They're well designed, and I can't deny it. I mean, I've gotten to shoot AK-74s pretty frequently now, as well as the FAL and the M4, and I've got to tell y'all, all of them are incredibly well made. I mean, the AK-74 at least, a real one, is as rugged and reliable as they say it is. It's actually quite shocking, moving on from a Riley defense made here in America to a real AK. You can actually tell that while it's still a primitive rifle, it's a very effective one. The M16s and the M4s are also incredibly well made as well, and it's almost impossible to get any kind of grime into them in the first place, especially if you have the dust cover closed. And then the FN-FAL, or the FAL, if you want to call it that, it is still a heavy-hitting beast. I mean, it's got laser point accuracy. It's pretty manageable with recoil, a little bit more kick than the AK or the M4, but it's still manageable. And not only that, it's just a well-designed rifle, in my opinion. They are popular for a reason, and there's a reason why. The AK is one of the most popular rifles in the world. The FN-FAL, or the FAL, is called the right arm of the free world, and the M4 is used by almost everyone you can imagine now, or there's been copies made by nearly everyone. They're all good rifles for their own reasons, and once you shoot them all, you start to realize that there really isn't a lot of crap that you can fling one way or the other. They were made for specific reasons with a specific purpose, and they're not bad for what they are. But moving on from that, we can get back to the video of the Leopard here. And now I'm seeing a lot of people coming in with a foul love now that I was giving the speech, and I thank y'all for that. I love that some people like the foul. But we can now see our Leopard 1 going in reverse, and look at how fast that reverse was. While the tank wouldn't escape the field, you have to admit that's a lot faster than a T-72 could ever reverse. But sadly, we can see it getting hit right there, it appears. It appears that a small amount of smoke is venting from the turret. And Wayne, you might be right, because the pistol grip on the FAL is very angular compared to others like the AK, which is a little bit more straight, and also the M16 or the M4, which has less of a grip angle to it. The FAL is a pretty extreme grip angle. Maybe that's what you don't like about it. And we can see our Leopard here being subjected to a decent amount of artillery fire. And oh my lord, BC Skyman, the SVT-40 is like $4,000 a piece right now. They are insane. And I think the Gewehr 43, which is like the German equivalent to it, they're like $9,000 right now. They're insanely priced. I would never buy them because they're pretty much, almost, to me, they're almost like the M14, you know, like with what they were supposed to do and how they would feel. But I've never shot them before to even know. But we can see the Leopard 1 here knocked out. We can see all of the hatches open, though, indicating that the entire crew was able to bail out, which is a very good thing. And we can see here the drone continuing to observe the loss of this Leopard. It doesn't appear to have been critically lost, though. It doesn't seem like the ammo caught on fire and burned the tank down. It appears that it took some kind of a debilitating hit, maybe to the engine bay, and then the crew decided to abandon the tank. Still, not bad. Hopefully it can be recovered and put back into Ukrainian service later. Moving on from that and into the area of Berkivka, we also get to see a Russian ammo cache get hit and knocked out. Whew. Okay, we're going to be muting that. And we can see them finding the D-20. And I guess you could say that the Ukrainians are about to put the D in D-20.
Whoa.
Whoa. Romania. Poof. There goes the shell. And it lands right on top of the D-20. Oh, and another one. Bada boom, baby. Bada boom. And with that, it's the end of the clip, but we'd love to see another D-20 getting knocked out. Moving on from that, we're now moving down to the area of Zaitsevo, where we got to see a 2S1 destroyed by a Ukrainian FPV drone. And the Ukrainians really do love getting in that first-person perspective. And I guess the Russians kind of get a first-person perspective of what it's like to be on the losing side of a war thanks to these FPV drones. We can see the 2S1 sitting right there quietly in the tree line, hoping that it's camouflage, but sadly it's not. And everyone's talking about the deal they got on their guns back in the day. Y'all make me jealous. If we could have those prices these days, that would be great. I mean, hell, ammo's even gotten expensive at this point. And we can see them hitting it time and time again. You like the first hit? Well, guess what? You got a sequel. Like every movie in Hollywood these days, it's got a sequel now. And it's lame and it sucks and the ratings are poor. But look at that. The SPG is burning. Just like the ratings at the box office for the brand new movie Napoleon, it was a loss. That's the end of that clip. Beautiful to see. Y'all know what we're about to do. We're about to be moving on into our next clip, which is actually out of the Bakhmut area, because Bakhmut wasn't really that active over the past 48 hours, maybe because of the storm, but we can see that there wasn't really a lot of frontline changes to be had in this area, so not really indicative of much. But moving on from that, we're now moving into Avdiivka, and by the way, we're skipping this clip here just in case if you've joined us, because we've already covered this earlier in the stream. That is the Russian general that was killed in that news segment. If you want to hear about that, go back to about like 12 minutes into the stream, because you'll hear me go into detail about who that general was, what he commanded, and what the impact may be. But moving on into the Avdiivka area over the past 48 hours, we have seen changes. This much changes. Wow.
Barely anything.
Barely.
Those Russians can't make any progress, man. They just suck.
Man, the Russians be like, I know what's wrong with it. I ain't got no gas in it. But we can see that one thing certainly doesn't have gas in it. This BTR-82, because the Ukrainians ended up burning all the gas out of it. There it is. Oh! And we can see all the garbage that they have on the back of it. And an AK. Oh, look, it's an AK-74 with a folding stock. Oh.
Oh, man, where'd that thing come from? It jumped up like an Arctic fox jumping onto the top of it and blew up.
Yeah, it did, didn't it? Look at that. Dude, that was funny.
They didn't have to do it like that. All that stunt driving and stuff. Man, these kids these days.
Man. Goodness gracious. And that BTR is now going to be burning down to the ground. Dang. With that, that's the end of that clip. But moving on from that and into our next one near Kamyanka, we also got to see that the Ukrainians were able to destroy some more Russian armor in the area today. Check it out. Is that music that scares me? And we can see them coming in time and time again. It's the time and time return tradition of the time and time, repeats of the Ukrainians just slamming into Russian positions. And I got to tell y'all, this stuff is just beautiful. By the way, while we're watching these beautiful compilations of drone strikes occurring, would y'all hit that beautiful like button? It would help us out
Hit the like.
It helps us out greatly in reaching more people, and it's a duty of the Lee Spring Army. And we can see the next drone flying on in and hitting dead on. Ooh, oh, someone put in the Lego disassembly noises because, oh my goodness. And someone said, you make the loss of life trivial. Wow, I kind of didn't know. But anyways, we're going to be moving on from that part of the clip and on into the next one. And Russell, do you get the point of this channel? We're doing that for a reason, because I don't want people to go with the emotional weight that they are responsible somehow for all of the terrible things going on. We're trying to get the important news out to people without emotionally overloading them. I know that's what virtue signalers love to do, is feel like emotionally overloading people is the righteous thing to do. But honestly, I don't really care about being a virtue signal. I kind of care about y'all being able to get the news each day and then leave knowing what's going on and still not being emotionally overloaded over it.
I like Fat Albert said, cool it, Russell.
But I cease and desist. All I want, Russell, is for you to kiss my star-spangled ass. But anyways, moving on from that, and that little clip right there, we're moving on to our next clip near Avdiivka, where we got to see the Ukrainians hitting another Russian soldier. Oh! Oh! Well. Oh, heavens, they hit another. And with that, that's the end of the clip. And we're now going to be moving on into our next one. Because down here in Avdiivka, things are getting hot. And by the way, a quick correction. I forgot who it was, but I think one of our old guards corrected me when we were watching a video up here at the Avdiivka coke plant, or at least that's where I located it, and they said that wasn't from the Avdiivka coke plant, that was actually from the southern industrial area of Avdiivka. I did a lot of combing, and you were correct. Whoever that was, I forgot who you were, but you were correct. It was not from the Avdiivka coke plant, it actually was from this little industrial area right down here, which I actually didn't really know even existed. I understood that the entire industrial area was the coke plant, but that's not the case. It's actually down here. So moving on into that industrial area, we did get to see some of the fighting that was occurring there today. And also, to address Hoodoo Texas' question, he said, why explain the whiners? Every once in a while, I'll pick a whiner to explain about, because I have a feeling that some people misunderstand the intention of this channel. Some people think that we make fun of things and joke about them because we get some kind of sick pleasure out of watching, people, have unfortunate things happen to them. And that's not the case. We are just trying to make the war less overbearing for people, and make it to where you can actually get through it and see what's going on without just being overloaded by it. But often we have people who try and come in and pervert our vision of what we're doing and why we're doing it, and make it seem like we're just sick people who like to laugh at folks, getting blown up, which, I would agree, if that was just the sole intent behind it, that'd be pretty messed up. But instead, we're trying to make sure everyone can see the news without just, freaking out over it every day. But we can see the industrial zone is being subjected to a pretty decent amount of fighting and some sporadic artillery fire. I mean, you see another artillery shell hitting into one of the industrial buildings.
коротше. Це йому хреново видно, заїбіть, блядь, там якраз димовуха пошла, блядь.
And it appears that some artillery fire is being called in by the Ukrainians onto this specific industrial building, indicating that there are Russian forces inside of it.
А він їбоша бере. Де ж наші айспішники?
And also, y'all, because I see many of y'all are still having a problem with YouTube not allowing y'all to see the polls, what we're asking right now is, do you think Ukraine will make significant progress on the front line before the year ends? And if you can't see the poll, just answer that in the live chat, because we'll be sure to look at it, and I'll probably try and circle back and even talk about some of y'all's takes that y'all have in the live chat about that question. But we can see the artillery still coming down onto the industrial building here. We can also hear Ukrainian radio chatter, most likely related to correcting the artillery fire. And we see them looking directly at this industrial building. It appears that their artillery fire has allowed a further collapse of the roof on the right side of the building. Shirley, you can't be serious. I'm serious. And stop calling me Shirley. I love that one, JD Mac. That movie was pretty good.
Wasn't that Airplane?
Yeah, they can't see the runway. They're flying in on instruments. Pants to the cockpit, and they're playing smooth jazz. You know, it's like that was a good movie. We see another shell land.
Man, what kind of conversation going on the radio? That guy's talking kind of strange.
I hit them very well. I really like that.
We bombed that building over there. Did you see that?
Man, that was very nice. I bet you the Russians really felt that one. I guess you could say that they liked it.
Damn, get back, get back.
Get back, I say. But anyways, you see the industrial area, of course, subjected to a decent amount of fighting. And that's the end of the clip. But moving on from that one, and on into our next one, Neuropitne. And this is the only clip that we had from yesterday. We saw a Russian soldier maybe having too much fun. I'm going to be muting the audio, but it appears that this man has been dabbling in things. Look at him go. Wow. Mr. Roboto, Mr. Roboto. You know, I have a feeling that Tyler Oliveira is about to show up to this guy and be like, hey, are you on Trank? He's about to be asking a question like that. And he's going to have the, I don't know the name of this guy. I don't mean to be rude to him by not knowing his name, because he actually seems like a really nice guy. But it's this social worker fella who's followed Tyler Oliveira around in some of his videos to some of these dangerous places. And he'd be like, yeah, you know, he has clear signs. Fin on him, you know. But we can see this guy had a bomblet explode right in front of him. He's like, what happened? He's like, what do you know? It was a bomb. He's like, wow, kind of shocking. What the hell happened here? He walks right over where it exploded, and then something popped on the ground. He's like, oh, pop. He's like, oh, wow, it's kind of shocking. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, did he? I don't know. Oh, now he's looking up. He's like, oh, hello. He's like, well, I'm on my way to get more trank.
Dang, that guy just ate that bomblet, like the shrapnel or whatever from it, like it was nothing, and it just sort of wandered around.
Dude, other Russians would have fallen over in these conditions and had a nap. This man, he literally goes, oh, What was that? It's like, damn. It's like whatever this guy is on, hopefully the rest of the Russian army doesn't get on it because he is invincible at this point. And also, let's see. Someone, Marion said, what's on his back? It looks like some RPG 22s, maybe. And let me make sure that I'm getting that right, because it's either an RPG 22. Yeah, you know, it looks like these to me. I'll show you all a picture of them. Let's see here. Let me see if I can get one packed up. Yeah, here we go. This one's all bricked up. So here it is. That's the RPG 22. This is like the Russian equivalent or the copy of an M72 Law, which was a pretty common AT weapon for the U.S. Army. But it appears that he's carrying 2 of these on his back, side by side. And you can also see the straps for each of them. So that's what I'm thinking they are. So this guy may be like the AT guy in his squad, possibly, or really just carrying the AT weapons for his squad. But moving on from that clip, and I hope we answered that well, Marion, hopefully that's the right answer too, we're moving on to Vidyane, where we also get to see more Russians getting hit in the Avdiivka area. Here they come. They're just hotboxing it across the field. Jingle bells. Oh! Oh my lord. Merry Christmas to the Russians. They were so naughty, they didn't get coal. They got bomb. Moving on from clip, and on to next. We're going to be moving out of the Avdiivka area and down to Lazove, where we got to see the 59th destroy a Russian Strela. It's very nice, very beautiful. We love to see it. Here we go. Strela. And we can see the Warhammer logo on the left side. Beautiful. And we can see the drone looking at Strela. We can see the gunner run away. And we can see the Strela fire at the drone, missing because it sucks. And we can now see that the Ukrainians have blurred out all the footage, and now they're showing the Strela 10 move on to other area. This is
Strela! Strela!
Oh, wait a minute. What the hell was it, Matthew? Stella! Stella! Yes. But we can see the Strela about to get hit by the drone. Poof! Blow up like a fantastic fashion. Blow up like a trend in the modern day and then die in about 2 weeks. I feel like that's how slang in the modern world is, Matthew. There's going to be no slang that's like identifying to the 2020s because there's going to be so much of it because it lives and dies in such a small amount of time now.
Yeah, the Urban Dictionary is growing by leaps and bounds in the modern century.
Man,
bussin', few years.
But Cap, oh God, I got Gyats in Ohio. Or whatever the hell the kids are saying now. But we can see this little Strela blowing up.
It says something along the lines of, it got blown up good.
Man, that thing be smoking. But anyways, moving on from the area of Lizove and on down into the southern front. Surprisingly enough, we didn't get really anything from the southern front today, video or picture evidence-wise, and there was no frontline changes either, so we're not going to be going over like a micro-analysis of the front, but we did see one clip of a Caesar firing at the Russians. And you know, it's very interesting that this thing is called a Caesar, because it seems as though a lot of people, like dressed in togas, are always chasing this thing around with knives. I don't know what's up with that, but you know, I guess that comes free with the system. Anyways, here's the clip. Dang, bro, they hitting the stanky, but we can see here them
real
the
trap shit. Trapaholics. Damn, son, where'd you find this?
And Vinny Mac said, do you guys watch pro-Russian news or just Ukraine? We're pro-Ukrainian. The only time we watch pro-Russian news is so that way I can get a laugh, because it's usually just so ludicrous. There's really no, it's not even news. It's more so just BSing, you know, or, you know, whatever the real word for that is. But moving on from that, we're now moving on down into the Kherson area, because Kherson has been very interesting over the past 48 hours. We haven't really seen a lot of frontline changes in this area, though. I'll show you what we've seen. Really the same. I mean, you know, just putting it out there, really the same. But we did get to see that the Ukrainian Marines were fighting with Russians. Just a little firefight to start off the morning. That's the end of that.
It's lit up out there like a Christmas tree, I'm telling you.
Yeah. We need to see more guns, more bullets. But anyways, moving on from that, we're moving on to our next clip where we also got to see that some Ukrainian electronic warfare took down a Russian drone. Or as they call it, Rossiyskiy drone. Oh God! That's what the drone's saying right now. I'm helpless. Oh, and it's gone. Oh, and this one's gotten throttled as well. It's literally saying throttle. Failsafe, throttle, axe loss. Dang, this one's putting out Nokia noises.
But it wasn't indestructible. It got hit.
Dude, these things are getting swatted down like flies. Nice. I like to see it. Moving on from that and into one of our last clips, we also got to see a 2S3 Akitsia SPG being destroyed by another HIMARS strike. Okay, well, it appears that at the moment, HIMARS is the preferred artillery system to conduct deep strikes on Russian lines in the area, probably because they can reach across the Dnipro and still be within relative safety, but here's the clip. And good night to Mark Hooper. Usually I do not say good night to viewers getting off, but I just saw that, and I was like, oh, that'd be nice to say good night to him. Good night, Mark. I hope you have a good night's sleep. Not the other Mark or the other Mark after that, but Mark Hooper. But we get to see the
good night to Mark, and also good night to these Russians, I'm telling you.
Spokojной nochi. But we can see the Russians falling asleep in the wheel. And they are having some very hot dreams. But they are not... well, we are not going there. But we can see the SPG continuing to explode. Very nice. Let me see. Very happy to see. I love to see it. Хуйло, как нет темноты is burning. Pretty much. Destroyed. Epic poggers. But anyways, that's the end of that clip. Nice to see another SPG getting wiped out. And with that, we're moving on from the Okholetsky area. And we're moving all the way up. Also, by the way, really quickly, just to recap this, because some of you are like, what the hell? Where's the Middle East segment? Right now, due to the ceasefire, there really isn't enough going on in the Middle East for us to really cover it. So we're going to wait for the ceasefire to end, and if hostilities resume, and, you know, I'm hoping that Israel, you know, the goals can be achieved without hostilities having to resume, but they're most likely going to resume in a few days, and when they do, we will begin to cover that as a full separate news segment again. But for now, we do not have a news segment on that. So we're going to be moving on to Kyiv to cover the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 643 of the war. So we're going to be getting rid of this freaking auto-translator, and we're going to be getting on into the speech. Here we go. Here's the speech.
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці, українки. Щойно провів засідання Ставки, особливе, тривале, детальне. Перше – фортифікація. Значно посилюємо. Були детальні доповіді на всіх рівнях. Генштаб, Міністерство оборони, прем'єр-міністр, обласна влада, командувачі ОСУВ. Всі фінанси є, всі рішення є. Має бути повна відповідна робота в громадах. Усе абсолютно деталізоване. Мін та бетону нашій державі точно вистачить. Потрібно більше швидкості та ефективності. І кожен, хто за це відповідає, має чіткі завдання. Був також важливий аналіз нещодавніх атак проти України, ракети, масовані удари дронів. Проаналізували тактику захисту від нашої протиповітряної оборони, чітка потреба, розвиток і посилення наших мобільних вогневих груп, а також всі максимально ефективні системи ППО. Окремо проаналізували роботу патріотів та насамсів. Все дуже ефективно. Я вдячний нашим партнерам, які допомагають нам саме із цими системами. Командувач повітряних сил та інші відповідні командувачі Міністерства оборони мають необхідні доручення. Були, звичайно, доповіді командувачів за усіма фронтовими напрямками. Окрема увага Донецьким напрямкам. Авдіївка, Мар'їнка, район Бахмуту. Там за цю добу найбільш інтенсивні бойові зіткнення. Я дякую усім нашим воїнам за силу і стійкість. Куп'янський напрямок. Я хочу особливо відзначити утримання наших позицій. Обговорили також і наші дії на південних напрямках. Провів сьогодні і окрему нараду з міністром з питань стратегічних галузей промисловості України. Можна назвати її оптимістичною. Ми готуємо, зокрема, хороші далекобійні речі, щоб окупанти відчували українську силу. Ще одне. Підписав закон України про державний бюджет на наступний рік. Очевидно, що у ньому головний пріоритет – це захист від російської агресії. Але при цьому ми враховуємо соціальні потреби наших людей та повністю виконуємо соціальні зобов'язання нашої держави. У час повномасштабної війни це надзвичайно важливо, щоб кожен наш громадянин, який потребує державної підтримки, отримував її. І кожен, хто зараз створює робочі місця, хто зберігає бізнес та навіть розвиває його, усі, хто в Україні та з Україною, працюють чесно та підтримують інших, підтримують і нашу оборону, і наше наближення до українських цілей. Захистити та зміцнити нашу незалежність, захистити наших людей, відновити нормальне, гідне життя максимально. Я дякую всім, хто б'ється та працює заради цього. Слава усім українським воїнам, слава нашому потужному народу. Слава Україні!
And with that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky. And it's absolutely wonderful to hear that he had some interesting things to say today. But that's not the only interesting things that were said today. The late Spring Army has been filled with interesting things said from top to bottom and start to finish. And I've got to say that tonight has been a very interesting night. A lot of y'all have said some really interesting stuff. And I'm not saying that just to repeat myself or, just to gas y'all up. I mean, some of y'all have said things that I'm personally affronted by, like the FAL sucks, or the AK ain't that great, or the M4 sucks. It seems like everybody thinks that every rifle sucks. And then there's a lot of people who also love each of those rifles. And I got to thank y'all for appreciating the true engineering and genius that was put into some of these designs, because they truly are something worth marveling at. But not only that, many of y'all have talked about the war in general, not just a rabbit hole about firearms. But Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so entering our last poll and question segment, we have two polls to address. And the first one says, Ukraine's spy chief Budanov's wife was poisoned, and is it possible that the Ukrainian government has infiltrators? So very big news right there, and we'll have to cover that because I think it came out a few hours ago, but I'm not quite sure. It looks like 78% said yes, it's a real possibility about the infiltrators in the Ukrainian government. 12% said, really not enough info to conclude just yet. 7% said unsure, and 3% said no, it could have been in public. And on this one, I got to say that to say the Ukrainian government has Russian infiltrators, I wouldn't necessarily be shocked at that. But to have infiltrators that are willing to start poisoning people, that's a whole nother story. So it really depends on where the poisoning occurred. If it was in public, that's obviously a lot easier for an operative to get close to the wife to be able to put some poison in a drink or something like that, and obviously harm the wife. But if it was in private, in a secure area, that's even more concerning. But hopefully she's okay. And Enforcer, what say you?
I hope that she's all right. That's terribly unfortunate to hear that Budanov's wife has been poisoned. That's actually one of the first times I've heard that. I would say that it probably is an insider in the Ukrainian government that may have possibly poisoned her or something similar. And if that is so, even if it was the Russians that directly did that or someone inside the Ukrainian government, that is very sick and very low to go after someone's family instead of them directly. That is about as cowardly as you can get. And I think that that is something that whoever the perpetrator was, whether it was a Russian spy, an insider in the Ukrainian government, or just a Ukrainian that was just bizarre, like odd in the head, there needs to be serious punishments for something like that, because going after one's family with the intent to harm or kill them instead of the person you actually have a problem with, that is just messed up on all kinds of levels. Funnily enough, kind of speaking from personal experience, we've never had anyone in our family injured or killed, thank God, but we have had people in the past threaten to try and injure or kill our family members while we've been doing this. And to be honest with y'all, I'm perfectly fine with people threatening me. And you know, and I kind of feel the same about Matthew because we're both in this together and we both do this as the thing. We're the people up front. But we have had some very psychotic people try and threaten our mother and our dad over what we do here because they either don't like the way we cover the news or they're pro-Russians or something. Or, you know, it's other things that y'all also know about. But that honestly pisses me off more than anything else because I get it if they have a problem with me because I'm the one, you know, actually doing this stuff. But having a problem and trying to threaten someone's family is just really messed up. And especially getting to the point where you can carry through, like with Budanov's wife, on poisoning them, that is sick on such a level. I feel like usually if that's the motive for, you know, injuring or killing someone is to get at someone else, honestly, I feel like the death penalty would be appropriate in instances like that because to be that sick, that's a whole other level to me. But with that, I hope that does address that well, and I hope that Budanov's wife is able to recover from the poisoning. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And our second poll says, do you think Ukraine will make significant progress on the front line before the year ends? 44% said yes, they will make a big breakthrough. 26% said no, that's not enough time. 18% said it will be a much longer time than that. And 13% said unsure. And on this one, that would only give Ukraine about a month to make a significant breakthrough. While I'm not saying it's impossible, that is pretty soon, and considering the weather change and the situation on the ground, that may be unrealistic. And, you know, if they can't make a breakthrough very rapidly, it's fine if it takes longer, because, you know, if it takes until next summer to make a big breakthrough, you know, it is what it is. The only catch is we have to worry about the West getting antsy, you know, wanting to withhold support because they don't think the progress is going fast enough. That's the only part I worry about. But I am confident that Ukraine will inevitably make a breakthrough. But Enforcer, what say you?
Can you reread the prompt?
Do you think Ukraine will make significant progress on the front line before the year ends?
I would have to say I don't necessarily think so. They will probably make some minor progress, but I don't think it's going to be major. I think the kind of major progress that we're going to see is during next year, before the Rasputin begins, probably sometime around late December. Well, no, not late December, but January and February. I think we're probably going to start seeing progress made then because the F-16s will most likely have been introduced by that point, and I believe with their support, the Ukrainians will probably really go all in on an offensive and be able to make some ground. So I don't think it'll be this year, but it certainly will be within the dry season in between the Rasputitsas of the fall and the spring, but not this year. And so with that, I hope that does address that well in my opinion, and we are on to the next one.
And das was our last poll. So with that being said, we are moving into our Super Chat questions yet again. And the first one is going to go to a channel legend. We've got a lot of them throwing in Super Chats tonight, and it is Praise Adonai, who puts in a $40 donation. And it's good to see you once again, Praise Adonai, and thank you very much. They said, Enforcer Matt, Russia announced that their war budget is $110 billion, that is, and can Ukraine gather enough money to stay in the game without getting blown away? And what can they do to get the help they need?
And I gotta say, first off, thank you so much for the massive amount of support, Praise That Night. And we haven't heard that name in a while in the Super Chats. And I gotta thank you so much for the support and helping us to keep the channel running because you have been here since day 4. And thank you for being here with us the entire time. And to answer that question, the only hope Ukraine has of matching the Russian spending or even topping it is through foreign support. The Ukrainian economy is not large enough to support that kind of military spending. That would be 30% of the GDP if they tried to match the Russian spending. And that is going off of a pre-war economic figure, and their economy is most likely suffering and has dropped tens of billions of dollars due to the war, much like the Russians have had probably a drop of several $100 billion because of this war as well. They can only count on foreign spending to be able to match the Russians. And that's why I think it's incredibly important that nations like the United States and the European nations realize that Ukraine's fate entirely is in our hands as far as our support goes to them. And that's why we need to ensure that it keeps on going. One thing I will say is that we support Ukraine and Israel on this channel, but I don't think that we should be giving really a lot or any support to Israel. It's quite clear that they have their situation perfectly under control, and it's not going to be getting out of control enough that they need tens of billions of dollars to support like we've proposed. It's much more important that we support Ukraine. They're a country that actually needs help and needs continuous support from the Western world to keep on going. And for that reason, I think that's the only hope that Ukraine has of being able to spend on par with the Russians or even outspend them. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, praise Adonai. And thank you so much once again for the support, being here with us forever, and helping this channel to keep on running, because it's amazing to know that folks enjoy the channel enough that y'all find it worthwhile to support. And I've also got to thank y'all for appreciating how we keep this thing ad-free, politics-free, and just generally the way we run it. I mean, there's no other channel that runs theirs the way ours does. And y'all supporting this channel helps us to keep this place running so that way y'all don't have to listen to someone's political beliefs and have them shoved down your throat, whether you believe with them or not. That's also why you don't have to hear of tonight's sponsor, because we don't have one, thanks to y'all support. That's why you also don't have to have a Chevy ad or, you know, whatever ads are running these days on YouTube thrown up in front of your face where they're 15 seconds long or they're unskippable. Because we don't run ads. Y'all help us to keep this thing the way it is.
Or even that, you know, that Manscaped or whatever that stuff is that literally sponsors everybody. They're like, do you want a trimmer? I'm like, I don't want to hear about this. I'm trying to watch a video.
You want to shave your sweaty? You know, it's like, no, I don't. I don't want to hear about this right now. It's like, I'm here to listen about the developmental history of the MiG-21. I do not want to hear about shaving my balls. This is not what I'm here for. You know, it's like, dude, Manscaped and Squatch. I mean, like, I don't mean to like kill off possible sponsorships in the future if we're doing things for videos, but my God, you're not a dish, you're a man, pisses me off to no point, beyond no end at this point. It was a good phrase at the beginning, but it's been used for 3 years now. We get it. We're not a dish, we're a man. You come up with a new phrase that doesn't sound that bad. Like, I hate to say it.
You're not a dish. You're a man.
And their soap is mid. Their soap is mid. It's not even that good.
No, the soap's all right. I actually like the soap. That pine smelling one, that's actually pretty decent.
Listen, man.
But you remember when Manscaped brought out like the girls to put on the ad to try to get the simps and like, you know, rein in the simps?
Dude, I remember at one point they were starting to bring on some really questionable people to do the ads too, and I was like, I don't know about that. I was like, yikes. I don't know. But you know, some people are actually saying, hey y'all, I mean, like, they're not bad. I mean, you know, they're not bad products for what they are. I mean, you know, they're doing what they do. It's a product like every other. But what I'm trying to get at though is, aren't y'all happy y'all don't have to hear that stuff on our show or our videos because we just don't have sponsors and things like that? That's what I'm trying to get to. But you know, I'm pretty sure we killed our chances of getting a sponsor with those two in the future, because you're going to go back to this stream and be like, I don't think they ought to get a sponsorship with us. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one. Thank you so much once again for support, praise Adonai, because you help us to make this channel as unique as it is.
Indeed. And with that being said, we're moving on to our next super chat question as I grab one from the live chat as we speak. And our next one is going to go to none other than Marion Deemer, longtime channel legend, who throws in a $30 donation. And then thank you very much, Marion, as always, for that support. And she says, Slava Ukraine. And Hiram Slava.
And Slava Ukraine. And thank you so much, Marion Deemer, for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Marion, you have been around forever. You're a channel legend like every single other. And I got to thank you so much for being here with us tonight and supporting this channel and helping us to keep it running, because it's greatly appreciated. If it wasn't for you, I say this to everybody, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but I don't know how to make a different saying that sounds sincere to each super chat. But nevertheless, beyond my social ineptitude in that regard, I do thank you so much for the support. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be able to keep this channel running. And not only that, we wouldn't be able to have the plans we have for the future. And boy, howdy, are our plans big. We plan on doing many gun reviews. Many gun reviews. Now, that's something we will take a sponsor for. If Federal Ammo wants to sponsor us so we can get the ammo for free, I would be happy for that, because the ammo prices are getting up there nowadays. So we'd appreciate that, you know. So if you know, anyone from Federal is watching, you know, shoot us an email. I'd be interested. But nevertheless, thank you so much once again for support, Marion Demon and Slava Ukraini. And thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep on running. And also, by the way, really quickly, while I'm kidding around about Federal Ammo sponsoring us, our sponsorships work in a specific way. Our streams are sacred in how they are ad-free and sponsor-free. We'll never have ads or sponsors running on streams. But on our videos, we will make exceptions. We will sponsor videos if they don't show clips of people, getting brutalized. We will show, sponsors if we ever get a sponsor offer. And we also will run ads on them as well, because YouTube will only promote the videos if we run ads on them. Beyond that, they never feel like promoting them in the algorithms. So our videos are different. Streams are sacred with how they run ad-free and sponsor-free. But if Federal Ammo wanted to sponsor some of our gun review videos, now that is something that I would be down for. I would back that up. But with that, hope that does address that well. Thank you so much once again for the support, Marion, and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one. I have a feeling I know who it is.
All right, and our next one is from Duncan VR, another
Geschlick,
long-time super chatter and channel supporter. And thank you very much, Duncan, for that support. He throws in a $27 donation. And Duncan says, Bamuba. Kermit said, Geschlick Malakin. No, wait. Baba. Kermit stepped on a landmine and he went, Baba, kaboom. He said, owl and pigs mentioned in the stream. Matt needs to make those noises quick. And here's the owl. I'm going to actually use the Winnie the Pooh characters as this. So Owl said, oh, Cousin Vinny was quite good on the glockenspiel. And Piglet said, oh, dear. So there's your owl and pig noises. He says, also, ba, moo, quack, snort. Oh, owl, ant. Oh, damn, son. Ba, ba.
Dude, Duncan was hitting everything tonight. But I got to think.
He tried to hit everything, man.
And also, Bo Nielsen said, Manscaped gun reviewers for the win. Well, we're not getting that sponsor anymore. We're not. But still, I got to thank you so much for the support, Duncan, and helping this channel to keep on running. And I got to thank you for throwing in the traditional animal noises. You know, Duncan, that this channel wouldn't be this channel without traditional animal noises. And y'all all know I got to do the thing, the Geschlick Verleichman thing. And so, Geschlick Verleichman in a Deutschen Volken in a See? Oh, wait a minute. Well, we can't go that far.
Chill out.
Schultz. But still, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you, PR. Man, I'm so happy we don't live in an apartment anymore, because imagine being our, tenant next door and you just hear in the middle of everything, Geschlick Verleichman. You'd be like, uh-oh, I think I'm living near some very questionable people. But still, thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep on running, Duncan. And I gotta say, I love these messages. And I love how you try and make Matthew make animal noises, and he tries so hard to do them but not do them. It's fun to watch. It's a pleasure. It's
painful.
It's an icon of this channel. And I gotta thank you so much, Duncan, for being one of those people that helped to make it possible. And so thank you so much once again for support. And I hope you enjoyed our address to your super chat. And with that, we are on to the next one. Thank you so much once again.
All right. And also, if you were living in an apartment and you made those noises like and you went through all that spill you just went through, that's what some people call keeping the rent low, because the people next door are not going to want to stay. They're going to leave, and the rent's going to go down.
Dude, no, that's what you call the rent gets lower from everyone else, but the rent gets higher for you. They come up to you next month and they go, yeah, we're raising the rent. And you go, oh, dang it.
Man, I could say a joke right now. I'm going to skip it, but anyway.
No, dude, that's when you sit there and you close the door and you go, well, my artist career didn't really work out. I think we need National Socialism. And then you start going down that route. It's like, I think we're going down bad ways. Hey, by the way, fun fact, Matthew, did you know that Hitler, through most of his life in the 20s and 30s, actually lived in an apartment?
Hitler lived in an apartment.
He did. That's how low, a lot of people think Hitler was a very big influential guy, but he was actually pretty low down on the pyramid. He was a run-of-the-mill normal guy after World War I for the first 6 or 7 years. And so he lived in apartments a lot during that time. In fact, I think he lived exclusively in apartments during that time. And this is probably going to blow you all away. He had a Jewish girlfriend.
Oh,
I mean,
man, I'm kind of scared to comment on this because of all the controversy around this.
Well, yeah, but what's weird about that though is that the guy who supposedly was a massive anti-Semite just about a decade before he became the leader of Germany. Well, hell, not even a decade. I think it was 5 years before he became the leader of Germany in 1932 or 1933. He had a Jewish girlfriend, and it's that doesn't really line up with your message, it's that's the opposite. The guy, honestly, dude, the guy was just messed up. Everyone in the Nazi party was messed up. Hermann Goebbels, Dude, that guy was the Harvey Weinstein of Germany. Like, if you go back and look at like all the stories that actresses had about him after the war, it was bad. It was terrible. Like Hermann Goering was an excessive eater, and also he had this weird obsession with bling to the point that he was described to be a terrible leader, but very good at dressing well, and that was really it. And then we all know about Heinrich Himmler. And he was a pretty weird guy as well, and also he was a little sadistic. We kind of know because he was one of the guys who came up with the final solution. They were all pretty messed up in their own regards, just on their personal level, where you go, man, those were some jacked up people. And then they would say things to the public, to the Germans, that they never even followed themselves, and it's just bizarre. And also, by the way, someone said he probably abused her. Well, from what I understand, how the story went, she actually ended up committing suicide a few years after they broke up. So it's kind of sad that that's related to their relationship, because Hitler actually wrote in some of his diaries that he had like romantic visions of them committing suicide by jumping off of a bridge together and some weird stuff like that. I mean, the guy was literally mentally messed up. I don't know how people admire someone, not just because of their heinous ideals, but because the guy was so messed up on a personal level. It's like you can't even relate to this dude. Once you like read his diaries and his memoirs and stuff, it's like this guy was just truly jacked up in the head. But anyways,
could you imagine like sometime in the 1900s, Adolf Hitler showing up to the leasing office for the apartment complex and being like, "Hey, can I have a room?"
Dude, with like, the stash and everything. Yeah, like.
They're like, "Yeah, sure, here's the keys, go have one." And the neighbors see him like moving in with his U-Haul and everything. He's getting out all the stuff. And then you start noticing, he seems to like the color red a lot. It's kind of strange. And he also yells when he's telling people to move stuff in the apartment. "Pick the sofa up and move it in the living room. Set it down."
Dude,
why is he so angry?
Dude, you were probably sitting there like, okay, all right, he's got a sofa. Mm-hmm. Okay, he's got some books. That's a weird name. My Struggle, huh? He's got the blood font. What the hell? It's like he's got the freaking blood font with him. But anyways, do you know what the blood font is, Matthew?
I don't.
So the blood font, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, was translated directly in German to the blood flag, which was the Nazi banner that was there during the beer hall putsch in Munich. And when the police fired on the supporters of Hitler during the putsch, they ended up killing the flag bearer, and he fell on top of the flag and bled onto it. And so this thing got like this sacred like treatment throughout all of Nazi Germany. It was like the Mecca. They put it in the Reichschancellery in the middle of the building, so that way everyone could see like this blood-stained Nazi banner, and they treated it like it was like God's work. It was weird, and nobody knows what happened to it, oddly enough, because that's probably something that would be a huge collector's item. The Soviets never found it. The Allies never found it. Nobody knows what happened to it, and from what we understand, there was no accounting that it ever caught on fire and was burned at some point. People just said it disappeared from the last building it was seen in because it was moved from the Reich Chancellery near the end of the war, and then it just disappeared. So there is a possibility that the blood font is in someone's attic somewhere. Who knows? If it is, I'm sure that the Germans, because it's probably still in Germany, will probably confiscate the flag and destroy it due to the denazification laws there, and it's probably for the best. But still, really interesting to think about. And, World War II is just a very interesting time, and the Nazis were just messed up people beyond belief. But listening to how messed up they were and the weird things they did, it's a whole other level. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, real quick, just to address this in general, I see a ton of folks have been asking all night about how our exams went for law school. So far, we've only taken one of them. It was a 3-hour-long exam. They're all 3 hours long, each one of them. And I feel like the first one did pretty good. It was criminal law, and I'm feeling pretty solid, like maybe it was a B or so. And obviously, in law school, everything gets curved on a scale, so it kind of takes it up into the average. But not feeling too bad. The only I'm not feeling good about is I have 3 more of those massive exams to go. And it's spread over this week and also next week as well. So it's going to be a bit of a marathon to finish those up. But thank you all for asking. It's gone pretty good. It's going better than I'm expecting. But Enforcer, how's it going for you?
And I feel like it's going pretty good for me. I actually felt pretty good about my exam as well, although I did not study as good as Matthew, and I felt very nervous going into the exam. But then when I sat down, I was like, oh, hey. And then I went outside after the exam and I checked to see if I was getting like the answers right. I was like Googling some of the answers I remembered from the exam, and I was like, oh, I was getting them right. So I feel pretty good about it. I think I did pretty good. But we'll wait and see if I did or didn't, and hopefully I did.
And you lucked out too, because you got an easier exam, it sounds like, than I got. I got some crazy, like 45 question, like 4 essay prompts. It was so much crap, and it sounds like you got a much easier one.
Yeah, so to explain to y'all what my exam was, it was 10 multiple choice, 3 short answers, and 1 long answer. Matthew's was like 45 multiple choice and what?
And like 4 essay prompts.
Yeah, so he had a lot worse of an exam than me. I took like 2.5 hours to complete mine and left early, and I think you took like all 3 hours, didn't you?
Yeah, I was there till they rang the bell.
Well, with that, beyond that, we feel like the exams are going pretty good. We still have 3 of them left, so it's not over yet. It's over, I think, on like the 8th of December, so it'll be Friday of next week, and we'll be done. But I can't wait for this to be over, and then once that's over, I believe law school starts on like the 2nd or 3rd of January next year, so we hardly even get a break, but we are going to be burning at both ends during that break to film as many gun reviews as we can. One thing I'm going to tell y'all is that at the beginning, probably the first gun review video we make, the lighting's probably not going to be that good. The framing of it's not going to be that good. It's going to be our first time doing something like that. So we are hopefully going to get better over those 3 weeks as we do them. So when our last one comes out, it's great. But I have as y'all know, I have a big passion for guns, especially historical ones, and collecting them and getting to talk about them. Very interesting way that history survives. Usually it's one of the few ways that history survives. Consumer goods don't really last that long, and it's just really neat to talk about that stuff. And also, I'm always trying to get new and interesting things. So if, y'all have new and interesting things you would like us to review, and we are able to make that a regular thing to do, let us know. Maybe we can review your guns, kind of like how Forgotten Weapons, which is a channel I really respect because I love the way they go into the deep history of guns. Maybe we can do something like that with y'all's guns. It would be pretty cool to do. But with that, hope that does address that well about the exams and everything else kind of going on around this time. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Jose Diaz, who's already left for the night, but he threw in a $20 donation. And also, we got a 20 from Brian Kramer as well. And neither one of them, Jose or Brian, left comments, but they did each leave a $20 donation. And huge shout out to you both for that support. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I got to thank y'all both for the support. And while y'all didn't leave comments, I got to thank both of y'all for being here. Y'all are both legends. Y'all been here for an incredibly long time. And I got to thank y'all so much for supporting this channel and helping us to keep this thing running. Of course, y'all will probably be hearing this tomorrow. But regardless, thank y'all so freaking much. We count on y'all each and every day to help us to be able to do this. Y'all help me to be able to carry out one of my dreams, which is being able to talk about this as a job. I never believed that I would have been able to do this, and I've been doing this almost 2 years now, thanks to all of y'all. I can't tell y'all enough how much that means to me. I can't tell y'all how happy I've been to do this, and of course it's had a lot of ups and downs. Of course, y'all know on Sunday I was very rattled with YouTube pretty much like throttling our stream at the start. But even through all of this, even through all of the crap that's happened, people attacking us, people threatening us with death, this has been one of the most fun things I've ever done. And y'all have helped to make this possible for us to do each and every day. And hopefully through y'all's continued support, we'll be able to keep doing this until the war is over. And until we are able to not only end the war and our coverage of it, well, we won't personally be ending the war, but the war will end and our coverage of it will start to end around that time. We'll be able to move on to even greater and better things with all of y'all and really dive into some cool stuff. But with that, thank you so much once again to the both of y'all for the support. I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
All right, and moving on to our next one here, we have one from Steve T, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Steve, for that support. He says, so you two can get 2 large drinks instead of 1 with 2 straws. He says, good luck with exams, and chat question, please.
And thank you so much for the support. And thank you for letting us get some Big Macs with 2 straws. And, well, wait, are we drinking Big Macs?
Drinking Coke.
Why the hell did I think
2 large drinks?
Man, I must be hungry right now because I thought Big Mac. I don't even know why. But I do thank you for the 2 big drinks. Matthew, if you could pick a drink right now, what would you get?
I would say Sprite, honestly. Because Coke is a little bit too something. I don't know. I don't like Coke that much, but Sprite's pretty good.
I would have to pick milk.
Milk?
Yeah, I mean,
I thought you said, well, why milk?
I don't know. I just kind of feel like having some milk right now, man. Like, milk is good.
We'll get you some milk.
Makes your bones strong. It makes your bones strong. It's good for you. Believe me. But still, I do thank you so much for that. And I thank you for wishing us the best of luck on exams. We are trying, y'all. I promise y'all we are trying. And hopefully we get the grades next year. And y'all wouldn't believe that. We don't get to see our grades until like a day or two after the next semester starts. That is really annoying to me. It's like, how long does it take to grade these exams? Like, that's a little weird. But nevertheless, we have to wait that long. And hopefully there'll be good grades by that point. But nevertheless, thank you so much for the support, helping the show to keep on running. And with that, we are moving on to the next. And some people are like, milk out of everything. And then some people are throwing in the booze. Some people are like, man, I could have some of that Crown Royal. And I'm like, man, I could have some of that damn Hennessy. But also, I'm like, man, I could have some of that. What the hell is that schnapps? I'm trying to think of the schnapps. Jägermeister. Yeah. Man, I could have me some of that Jägermeister. But anyways, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Charge, or Char-GE. And they put in a $20 donation, and huge shout out to you, Charge, for that support. And they said, hey guys, I love the channel, and I know it sounds weird, but coming home from a long day at work, your evening show really helps me to relax. And Slava Ukraine. And I gotta say, that does sound a little bit strange, because this is some pretty heavy stuff that we cover here every night. And even though we do try to lighten it up just a little bit with some, humor mixed in here and there, it is pretty heavy. But I'm glad to hear that it does help you relax, if it does help you to do so. And very interesting to hear. And Enforcer, what say you?
I'm glad to hear it. I don't think that's weird at all. We've heard that from a decent amount of people, and I feel like that's what we're trying to achieve. I mean, we're not trying to make the war like a relaxing ASMR stream or something like that. That's not at all what we're going for. But I still think it's great to know that you can sit down, watch this stream, helps you to relax. You get all the information of what's going on over there, like you would from any other channel, but you don't feel the weight of the world coming down on your shoulders when you hear about it. And then you go to the next day. I feel like that's actually a really good thing. And I got to thank you for supporting the channel and letting me know that what my goal is working. I mean, you're getting all of the news. And not only that, it's not freaking you out either. And so with that, thank you so much once again. And thank you for the kind words and the compliment as well, and supporting us so that way we can make sure that folks like you have a place to go to hear about all the important news going on around the world today, and also a place to relax. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Margaret Hemsley, who puts in the 15. And thank you, Margaret, as well for that support. She says, I'd like to throw it to a live chat question, and you appreciate the super chat I gave because it helps keep the lights on and things running in the background. And with that, you're on to the next one.
Oh, man,
But we can't move on to the next one. Margaret, you asked for a live chat.
We can't, Margaret. We can't. I got to thank you for the support. They already called me out. I hate that. Call them out. I hate that because you'll call me out, and then I feel like an ass, like repeating the same thing because I want y'all to, I don't know how to do it anymore because over 643 days and, the at least, I think it's 20, 30 super chats that come in each night. We run out of ways to say it in different ways, to show people and thank people that we appreciate y'all. And so it becomes very predictable, the kind of thanks that I give. And I hate that. I really do. And I hate that people are able to predict how I'm going to thank y'all for your support. But still, I'll cut it short on this one since you already said it for yourself, Margaret. But thank you so much for the support. And we will make sure to grab a live chat. So what do we got, Matthew?
All right, and the live chat question is going to go to Rob Eisman, who says, any word on that Russian base that was annihilated in that massive explosion?
Let's see. Which one? I'm trying to think about which massive explosion you're talking about. Oh, wait a minute. I think you're talking about that one down in, near Volgograd. Is that what you're talking about? Because that's one of the ones I'm thinking of right now. Let me go over here and I'll show it to you. Maybe it is. We have to go up the highway right here near Kotloban. Maybe that's the one you're talking about. We heard that apparently there was some kind of a drone attack possibly that occurred here, which caused a critical ammo detonation. And the one explosion of the one shed here in this ammo depot caused a chain reaction through a decent amount of them, causing significant damage to the base and also a large loss of thousands of tons of ammunition. That's what we know at the moment. We don't know anything additional because it's very hard to get additional updates and news about this stuff because the Russians keep it very hush-hush and keep people away from really seeing what happened. But that's what we heard about the base explosion, if that's the one you're talking about. And also, if you're talking about the tractor factory, from what we understand there, we don't really know what happened. It may have been an industrial accident. It may have actually been sabotage. But the chances of it being a Ukrainian attack by drone were very unlikely because of its range from Ukraine. What we do know, however, is that apparently the tractor factory suffered a very significant fire, and that led to a decent loss of the supplies that were held there. Or if you're talking about the ammunition factory in the city of, let's see, what was it? It wasn't Tula. It was like, it was somewhere in here. It was somewhere just south of Moscow. I think it was in Kolomna. But if you're talking about the explosion of the ammo factory or the ammo depot there, from what we understand, it was an ammunition factory that had a fire inside of its storage buildings, and that building ended up being destroyed, but the factory, from what we understand, was minorly damaged and is probably operating again already. Or if you're talking about the explosion of any of the bases in Ukraine, usually those were caused directly by Ukrainian action. So hopefully that's kind of covering all the bases on all the explosions that have happened over like the past 2 weeks or so. But I thank you so much for asking that question. I hope we addressed it well, and I hope we covered the right explosion through all of those answers. But thank you so much for asking a good question. That was a really great one. And I highly encourage you to ask more questions like that, because the more live chat questions y'all ask, the more we have to work with. And y'all also give us some really good hot topic questions that we may not be able to get if a lot of y'all don't ask the questions. So make sure to get in that live chat and ask every question you can, because while you think it may just be a kind of meh question, it may be an amazing question that we've never answered before. And so with that, thank you, Margaret, for the support and allowing us to answer that one. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and moving on to our next super chat here, we have one from Rangers Rule, who throws in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Rangers Rule, longtime channel legend, for that support. And he says, thank you for the hard work.
And thank you, Rangers Rule, for enjoying our hard work and supporting us to make it possible. Of course, the fundraisers are incredibly important, and we thank all of y'all for supporting the fundraisers. But I also thank y'all equally for taking a moment to think about this channel and support us so that way we can make sure that our weekly coverage is possible and our existence to be able to run those Sunday fundraisers is also assured. I thank you so much for that, because if it wasn't for folks like you who support both the fundraisers and these streams, we wouldn't be able to make either of them possible. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we've got a 10 from Carl Peckham. And he says, longtime viewer and first-time commentator, and thanks for the content, guys. And also, thank you very much, Carl, for the support. And also, thank you for that first-time support as well.
And thank you, Carl, for enjoying this channel to be a first-time commenter, first-time supporter. It means a lot to us, and I got to thank you so much for appreciating the channel enough that you would help us to keep it running, because folks like you make the nightly coverage possible. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, y'all know what it is. It's time for us to get on to that next one.
All right, and our next one is going to go to Harvey the drummer, who throws in a $20 donation. And thank you, Harvey, as well for the support. He says, bow down. He says, bow down to a drummer that's better than you. Bow down. LSA. And I have a feeling it's a song reference, but I didn't quite pick up on it.
Matthew, you going to let him diss you like that?
No, it's a song reference, man. And also, he is a better drummer than me because I've gotten rusty and I suck.
Man, Matthew's gotten rusty. I'll tell you one thing I'm not rusty on, though. Shooting. That sounded so bad. Like, I was like, as soon as I said that, I was like, that did not sound good. But I'll tell y'all what, y'all. I've been getting pretty good with the pistole. I mean, like, I've been down at the range, like, maybe, like, I think once every, like, weekend or once every 2 weeks or so at this point. And I've been putting rounds on target. And I've got to tell y'all, they're getting pretty accurate. You want to hear something, Matthew, today that was pretty wild?
What's that?
I went to the range to test out something, and I put the target all the way out at the maximum distance at this indoor range in the pistol bay, which is, I think, 40 yards. And I aimed the pistol, and I shot, and out of, I think, the 4 rounds I shot, all of them at 40 yards, firing one-handed, hit the torso. I was like, oh. Like, they weren't accurate by any means. Like, I think one was, like, up at, like, the heart, one was, like, near the liver, and the other 2 were getting kind of near the crotch. But nevertheless, I was like, man, at 40 yards, I'm happy for that. You know, like with a pistol, that's pretty good to me. I was like, I'm happy enough with that. But
That's pretty decent. We got to say, pretty decent. I think I've done 50 yards or so with the Glock. I can't recall what the distance was though that we were shooting at.
And also, Matthew, by the way, that guy is a shill. Go ahead and knock him out. But anyways,
get the hell out of here.
Get the hell out of here. Giving back to the subscribers. We give back by doing the news. That's what we do. That's our job. Like, what do you want us to do? Like, run a banquet? Like, what? But anyways, moving on back into this. The pistol accuracy is getting better. But I will say this. Jay Bagwell, who is on this channel, could walk up into that range firing one-handed, and he could probably hit, like, the bullseye every single shot at 40 yards with the same pistol I was shooting. I cannot tell y'all enough. We went shooting with Jay Bagwell months ago, and it was very fun. He had a really cool collection, and not only that, he is an amazing shot. Incredible. Put us to shame every single time he fired any of them. But with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you so much once again for support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next super chat goes to Jay Bagwell, longtime channel legend. He throws in a $10 donation, and it's good to hear from you once again, Jay. And he says, That was one hell of a storm. I'm not a naval expert, but I'd bet money that Russia now has more vessels at the bottom of the sea and a quote-unquote special underwater operation. Wink, wink.
And I got to thank you so much for the support, Jay Bagwell. Crazy that I was literally just talking about you right before that super chat. But I would agree. Some of those Russians did get to have a little bit of a fun time, you know, in this little storm. And I bet you the Navy was really having a fun time. Dude, imagine being on the Vasily Baikov with how unstable that thing looks. Let me go get it. Vasily Baikov. Oh, it's ugly. I don't really like the stealth, like what I would call the stealth style Corvettes that are being introduced in a lot of navies around the world. I think they're ugly. But look at that thing. And imagine being on it in a typhoon. Ooh, dude, suffered.
You're getting sloshed.
Dude, you're getting sick, man. Like, the floor, like, it sounds like the ocean inside of this thing on the decks because of all the vomit. Like, that would be horrendous to be on that thing. And I bet you some of them did visit the Moskva. And so with that, thank you so much for the support. Jay Bagwell, absolute legend. And not only that, great friend of the Enforcers. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, good night to you, BC Skyman. I see he's leaving for the night. It says we called off someone else. Good night to you, BC. And also, up next, a big shout out to Matt Cheer for putting in a $6 donation, along with DB, who put in a $5. Also, Miranda Nelson also put in a $5, and Junebug72 put in a $4. And they did not leave comments on any of those super chats. But thank you to Miranda, Junebug, Matt Cheer, and DB very much for that support. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I have to thank a lot of y'all for y'all's support. Of course, I didn't throw in comments, but y'all support, dollar by dollar, big or small, helps this channel to keep on running, and every single bit is appreciated. And I got to thank y'all all so much once again for helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for y'all, the engines behind the scenes, both Matthew and me, wouldn't be able to keep on grinding and turning, because we wouldn't be able to do things like pay rent or be able to just basically live like everyone else does. And so I got to thank you all so much once again for thinking about this channel and its behind the scenes operations and helping them to be possible with y'all's support. And so with that, I thank y'all so much once again, and I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to CK Bold, who puts in a 5 and says, take a live chat question, and we shall. And thank you very much, CK Bold, as always, for the usual. And he said, or not he says, but the live chat question, which goes to Mad Machine, says, could Ukraine use their drones to place thermite grenades on the Kerch Bridge support beams?
They possibly could. I haven't actually thought about that, but trying to think seriously about that, it's possible. I don't know what drones they would try and use. We do know that they certainly have the range, but I don't know if they'd be able to make it onto the bridge and then set the bombs. I don't know, but that's a really interesting idea, and I have a feeling that it is possible if they tried to pull it off the right way. I mean, the dam busters pulled off near impossible feats in World War II on the German dams in the Ruhr Valley, so it's not entirely impossible to say that the Ukrainians could almost do the same thing, being a bridge buster down there at the Kerch Strait. And so with that, I thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address that well. And that was a really interesting question. I like the concept. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Ed, who puts in a 5. And he says, LSA, our shed. He says, I saw a local news clip 5 months ago where the U.S. Army was removing the armor on the Abrams. And please explain this to a dummy like me.
Oh, you're not no dummy. Don't say that. But I thank you for the support. And to answer your question, it's actually a very good question because a lot of people would look at that and go, wait a minute, what the hell are they doing? Well, it's something a little interesting. We have a special kind of proprietary armor that's in our inside of our Abrams that's called depleted uranium. And what these are large sheets of depleted uranium metal, and it's some of the densest metal out there, and it is able to stop a lot of stuff dead in its tracks once it hits it. It's a great armor. It's probably one of the best out there. The problem is that we can't send that to foreign countries because while the tank might be old, the M1A1 Abrams is a fairly old design. They were around to even be used in the Gulf War in 1991, which tells you that they're getting a little bit on up there in age for a Western military. The depleted uranium armor found inside of some of their turrets and also their frontal glacis is still proprietary to the U.S. military and considered a very a secret of high importance to keep and to make sure that that doesn't fall into anyone else's hands, so that way they can understand the metallurgy behind those depleted uranium armor plates and how to make them themselves, because that would give the enemy the same advantage that we have on the battlefield. And so what we do is that whenever we export our Abrams to foreign countries, we end up removing the depleted uranium armor plates from the turret and the frontal glacis, and we end up replacing them with a export variant of a ceramic armor that is good, but it isn't as good as depleted uranium. And so I hope that addresses that well. And a lot of onlookers would go, why are they removing the armor? Well, it's for that reason. It's really just to make sure that we keep the U.S. having a strategic edge on others as far as our tank technology goes. So the ones in Ukraine, just to put it out there, they will not have as great of armor protection as our Abrams has. They don't have depleted uranium. They have another kind of composite armor inside of them that is also classified, but it's not as secretive or as important as depleted uranium armor metallurgy is. So that can be sent over, and if the Russians get their hands on that we're not really going to be losing much. They probably already gotten their hands on it before because hundreds of Iraqi Abrams with that kind of composite armor had already been destroyed fighting ISIS in Iraq. So, if anyone wanted to get a hold of that kind of composite armor, it probably would have been pretty easy to do that there. So that's why we do that. And that's why you probably saw that on the news lately of them removing the armor. That's the exact reason why. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next super chat is going to go to Harvey the Drummer yet again. This time he throws in a $5 donation, and he says that was an Ice Cube reference in LC. And I figured it was something like that. I couldn't quite recognize it, but now that you tell me, I think it might be ringing a bell. But Harvey the Drummer, thank you very much once again for that support. And Enforcer, what say you? What are you saying?
And I gotta thank you so much for the support and clarifying what the hell it means, because I don't know modern songs. A lot of people are always like, what do you mean you don't know this song? Or you haven't seen this movie? Do y'all think I just grew up knowing all of this Ukraine war stuff and had time to do other things? Y'all, I was a freaking nerd. I didn't look at nothing modern. Like, I live at some point in between the 1930s and about the 1960s. That's the best way I can describe it. My understanding of pop culture dies there, like somewhere in that range. And it's well understood earlier than that. Like, going beyond the 1960s, I have no clue. Like, I couldn't tell you anything. But I could tell you all about the weapons, the systems, the diplomacy, the history of that time, but I can't tell you about the pop culture. I have no idea. So I thank you for sharing that with me, that it is a song, because a lot of people be like, damn, he dissing on you. But he wasn't dissing on you. He was just doing the lyrics of a song. Mad respect. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. And Vinnie Mac said, what do you listen to? And I'm going to take that live chat question here, Matthew, out of turn real quick, because I'll explain to y'all what I listen to. I listen to songs from everywhere. I've listened to Chinese communist songs like The East is Red, March of Steel Torrent. I've also listened to North Korean songs like Potato Pride, and also a whole bunch of other songs like that. I've listened to South Korean songs, Japanese songs. And I'm not talking about your modern songs. I'm talking about your songs, the songs that you would hear at some kind of a government function or a patriotic rally for these countries. I find it interesting because you kind of get an insight onto what the government, or more so the public's mindset would be about their government in these countries through their songs. And even admittedly so, I've listened to an extremely large amount of Soviet era music and also music from the Russian Federation that is considered patriotic or is in form it's military music. Because through music, you can understand a people and you can understand the patriotic mindsets that they have. And not only that, maybe how they'll even interact with other nations on a diplomatic level, because these mindsets are ingrained even in their policymakers and their diplomats. So I listen to all kinds of stuff like that. Some people are going to be like, oh, you listen to Sabaton? Nah, not really. I've listened to a few of their songs. It's just a little too rock for me. Like, if I wanted to listen to songs, like, for example, about the Battle of Waterloo, I'm probably going to listen to actual songs that came out of the Battle of Waterloo, not some, song that's recounting the Battle of Waterloo. But anyways, I hope that does address that well, because that's a good question, Vinny, and that's the kind of music I listen to. So instead of hearing me play a modern song, you'll probably hear me listening to a song like the Cossacks Were Riding, which we play in our intro, or maybe even Was wollen wir trinken, which is what are we going to drink in German, which is used by the East Germans, the West Germans, the Nazi Germans, the Imperial Germans, and everybody. Even French songs, like Verdun on ne pas, which is about we will not pass, well, they shall not pass. But anyways, moving on from that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Miranda Nelson, who puts in a 2023 donation. And thank you very much for that support. And Miranda says, would supplying longer-range munitions bring a premature end to this war?
I think supplying the Ukrainians with anything they don't have right now that will give them a new ability, like a longer-range munition, will help them to end the war quicker. So to answer that question in short, I would say yes, entirely without a doubt. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Jack Ray, who puts in a 5 and says, was the mine that stopped the general a general purpose mine? Oh.
I haven't thought about that. It could have been. It could have entirely been. Oh, man. I would have hated to have seen that happen because that would have been gruesome. But still, thank you for the support and bringing up something I didn't think about earlier. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
And this one goes to James Dunn, who puts in a 2 and says, has any general died from a landmine before?
I don't think so. I think they've mostly died from artillery strikes or missile strikes. Never really heard of one dying from a landmine. And also, there's been some that have been killed by snipers, but I can't remember one that got killed by a landmine until today. So he may be the first to die that way. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and thank you for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And for our last super chat, shout out to Raw Pangit, who puts in a 2. And thank you very much, Raw, for that support. And there's no comment to address on that one. But with that being said, we are now moving into our live chat questions. And of course, y'all know the routine. Up first, we have to take our Morse code decoders of the stream. We have Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, Paul Schultz, Kevin J., Rumpelstiltskin, and also Toxic Bananas. They said the Morse code for today is the Russians that got swept away in the storm got a free trip to the Moskva. Long live the LSA. Ding, 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 ding.
Oh, well, you going to steal my job?
That's the sound of money.
You're going to steal my job? Why don't you just do it then?
I did.
Well, damn. That's the sound of money. And y'all got that dead on the nail. That was the Morse code message. Y'all got it right. Yeah. And I got to thank you all so much for getting that Morse code message correct. It's 643 days in the war. Y'all are still going strong. Mad respect, I must admit. And so with that, thank y'all so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And sadly, due to us starting to go overtime, we're only going to be able to answer 3 live chat questions, and then we're going to be rounding out tonight's stream. And so with that, we are on to the third to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Paul, who says, are the Ukrainians using depleted uranium rounds with the Abrams tanks?
Most likely they are. Because I think I understood that the Germans provided some depleted uranium armor for their 120mm smoothbores. The British did provide 120mm depleted uranium ammo, but theirs is specifically made for the rifled bore of the main gun for the Challenger 2. So I don't think it's compatible to other NATO rounds like the smoothbore rounds that every other country uses. So I think if the Germans provided their depleted uranium rounds, then they probably will have some to work with. And I think we may have even provided some of ours way earlier on in anticipation of the Abrams arriving, so they probably do have some to work with, but we haven't heard about the Abrams using those yet. And you have to remember that depleted uranium, APFSDS, or armor-piercing stabilized discarding sabos, are armor-piercing rounds specifically meant to punch through the frontal armor of a main battle tank. And so it's probably going to be very rare for us to ever see an Abrams having to use that anywhere in Ukraine, because it's very rare to see tank-on-tank action anywhere on the front lines at the moment. And the chances of that happening, even now, are quite low. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the second to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Pops, who says, what is the water level at nuclear creators, or I think he meant to say nuclear reactors, after the storm?
Well, I don't know. I think the nuclear reactors are so far upstream that while the storm was pretty brutal, they're not really affected by it, because the storm really affected the fighting on the front lines in that area. Well, kind of just a little over from that area because it was severe. But at the same time, it wasn't really like washing up floodwaters that far or anything. That was really relegated to the coastal areas. And so I think the nuclear power plant is probably fine. And probably the excessively high amount of rainfall helped them to top off the cooling pond, which they've been circulating the water in and out of for, I believe, 8 months at this point. So a lot longer than anyone really thought, to be entirely honest. And also they're drawing out of groundwater wells and everything else to keep the power plant running. But with that, I hope that does address that well. And thank you so much once again for asking a really good question. And I think we are on into the final question of the night. And so who is the lucky last person who threw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is Jonathan Schott, who says, how janky do you think the new Iranian hypersonic is?
Iranian hypersonic?
It's got to be supreme jank.
I gotta tell you, the Iranians, they don't make great things. I walked into Iran and I said, wow, they don't make great things. I gotta tell you, they're absolutely terrible. They suck very bad. I mean, I gotta tell you, they could suck the chrome off of a trailer hitch. It's very bad stuff, terrible stuff. I said, wow, they could suck the chrome off of a trailer hitch.
But anyways, I don't think it's going to be that great. It's Iran. I mean, Iran could barely make anything good, even in the Shahed 136. They can't even make an attack helicopter. So I would highly doubt that their hypersonic would be good at all. I feel like it would suck from the outset. But that's just my take on it. And so with that, we have reached the end of tonight's stream. I got to thank all of y'all so much once again for being here with us tonight, listening to the news, hopefully getting something out of it, and of course, making sure to slam that like button. We're up to 2,600 likes, which is a very high number. And I got to thank every single one of y'all, once again, for helping this channel to exist. This channel would never be able to exist without all of y'all hitting the like button, all of y'all watching, and of course, helping us to keep this thing running. We are greatly appreciative to each and every one of y'all, the tens of thousands of y'all that are here with us, because y'all mean the world to us. And, you know, while, of course, everything is what it is, it's still amazing to know that every single one of y'all have been here with us again tonight, and hopefully will be here with us until the war ends. And so with that, good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, Slava Israel, Slava the United States, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die. Put a Lee Spring Army in the chat if you agree, and good night.
And good night, folks. We'll see you all tomorrow. Slava Ukraine, Herom Slava, and get some rest. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
Yes. The Lee Spring Army sends its regards.
Русский военный корабль. Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.
життя